Chapter 262. The moment they stepped into the palace, Chen Hao and Qin Shui were shocked. From the outside, the core palace was already ridiculously large, with a diameter of 3,000 feet and a height of 5,000 feet. However, after entering, there was actually a completely different world. It was as if they had entered another world. The two appeared on the top of a towering mountain. The top of the mountain was circular, with a diameter of 9,000 feet. Just this alone was 3 times larger than the palace outside. They couldn't see the top of the mountain. There were only clouds as black as ink floating gently in the sky. They couldn't see the end of the mountain and didn't know how big it was. At least with their powerful senses, they couldn't detect the end of the mountain. The surface of the mountain was flat and smooth, as if it had been cut in half by a powerful expert. At the core, there was a strange building that was circular like a yurt. It was only 15 feet in diameter, and its surface was covered with fine runes. Chen Hao and Qin Shui appeared at the edge of the mountain. Dark clouds rolled downwards, and the depth was unknown. Even though the two of them had strong minds, they couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air when they looked downwards. Their minds had only extended downwards for 1,000 feet, and they felt an irresistible and terrifying pressure. At this moment, the runes on the odd-shaped building at the core suddenly began to move slowly. A faint milky white light floated out and shone on the two. In just an instant, the two of them felt that this milky white light was a kind of extremely pure and gentle energy, and it naturally merged into their bodies. Immediately, they clearly felt that their essence, energy, and spirit were recovering at an astonishing speed. The true essence of the light attribute? Chen Hao and Qin Shui were shocked at the same time. At their level, they could more or less control the energy of the 5 elements, but it was impossible to control the true essence of all attributes. This faint milky white light was definitely not just the pure light attribute energy, but the ultimate of light, the true essence, and the law of light. And it was definitely not the elementary category of the true essence. Otherwise, it was absolutely impossible to have such a magical function. The 4th level cave is so powerful. Chen Hao, let me down. Qin Shui, who originally didn't have any strength, regained the strength to move in just a breath. Even though there was still no energy in his dantian and his body was still heavily injured, the recovery of his essence, energy, and spirit allowed him to have the most basic physical strength. Moreover, the injuries in his body were also quickly recovering. Let's go in and take a look. Hearing Qin Shui's words, Chen Hao hurriedly put down the soft and graceful body in his arms. He held Qin Shui's little hand and walked towards the oddly shaped building. As the two of them gradually approached, the milky white light became thicker and thicker. Their recovery speed also became faster and faster. Chen Hao, in particular, already had an abnormal recovery ability. After just a few thousand feet, the extremely serious injuries on his body were completely healed. What he lacked was true essence. When the two of them seemed to be strolling hand in hand and traversed 4,500 feet to arrive before the oddly shaped building, even the heavy injuries on Qin Shui's body had completely recovered. Buzz! When the two of them had a tacit understanding and stretched out their hands to touch the odd-shaped building at the same time, an unexpected change occurred. The talisman markings on the building instantly emitted an even more resplendent light. It shook violently for a moment before Chen Hao and Qin Shui disappeared on the spot and entered the building. This was a world of light. The milky white light was so thick that it seemed to have condensed into a liquid state. It floated around the two of them, and the mystery of the true essence of the light attribute filled it. What was emitting this milky white light was a white round crystal with a diameter of 1 meter in front of them. What is this thing? Qin Shui opened her little mouth in surprise and asked in astonishment. It doesn't matter what it is. The most important thing is to quickly start cultivating. This thing contains pure light attribute energy and has already begun to activate. I don't know how long it will last. I just happen to need to go into seclusion. Oh, the two of them exchanged a glance. Chen Hao's figure flashed and he appeared on the other side of the sphere. He sat down cross-legged and immersed himself in cultivation. Chen Shui took a deep breath. She did not dare to waste precious time and was instantly immersed in the mysterious light. There was no doubt that this was an excellent environment to comprehend the true essence of the light attribute. Whether or not one could comprehend it depended on oneself. 7 days later. The milky white light began to weaken slowly. In less than 4 hours, the white crystal sphere cracked and turned into fine powder. Chen Hao and Chen Shui did not come out of their cultivation state. Their bodies were shining with a faint milky white light, and a holy and transcendent aura enveloped them. The exposed skin of the two of them seemed to have turned into glowing crystals. They were sparkling and translucent, and one could clearly see the flowing light within. After 3 days, the light around Chen Shui dissipated. She let out a long sigh and opened her eyes. Phew! I've successfully comprehended the true essence of the light attribute. Unfortunately, compared to the aura of the crystal sphere, my comprehension is still superficial. It seems that any kind of law of heaven and earth is not so simple. Chen Shui felt the surging power in her body and thought to herself. She looked at Chen Hao. Ah! The moment she saw Chen Hao, Chen Shui's eyes widened in surprise. Although she did not dare to use her mind to investigate for fear of affecting Chen Hao, at this moment, the rich light attribute energy contained in Chen Hao's body shocked Chen Shui. One must know that the crystal sphere had been broken for 3 days. The light attribute energy that had fused into his body should have been almost completely depleted. But the light attribute energy in Chen Hao's body was several times more powerful than Chen Shui's at her peak. How can it be so much more powerful than mine? It shouldn't be. I'm already at the late gold core stage. Although my body is not as strong as his, the gap should not be so big. Could it be that he has comprehended more than me? Chen Shui stared at Chen Hao in surprise and thought to herself. I'm always defeated by him. Next time, I'll definitely be stronger than him. Chen Shui looked at Chen Hao's handsome face and said while biting her lips. Because her mother had been sealed in her womb for hundreds of years, her innate soul power was 10 times or even 100 times more powerful than ordinary people. It was also because of this that her comprehension and talent were not comparable to people of the same age. In the past, she did not know all of this. She only knew that it was easy for her to cultivate any cultivation technique, including the comprehension of the laws of heaven and earth. She had too many advantages over ordinary people. No one of the same age could compare to her. But this time, she entered the cave at the same time as Chen Hao. Not only was her combat power not as good as Chen Hao's, but she also lost in comprehension. The corner of Chen Shui's mouth twitched slightly. She stared at Chen Hao and immediately revealed a smile. Although she was a little shocked, she was actually a little happy in her heart. When the crystal sphere broke, the odd-shaped building also disappeared at the same time. Standing up quietly, Chen Shui walked to the top of the mountain far away. This is the exit. Chen Shui came in front of a whirlpool that seemed to be the entrance of every floor of the ancient Black Wind Cave and said softly, "Let's wait for him together." It shouldn't take long. Chen Shui looked at the slightly tattered blue dress on her body and frowned slightly. Immediately, she took out her sword and merged with everything in the world. Quietly, she dug a cave on the flat top of the mountain and went in, quickly taking off her clothes. Her lithe and exquisite body was fully exposed. Although there wasn't any dirt on her body, Chen Shui still took out a container of clean water from her storage ring and splashed it all over her body. Only when she felt clean in her heart did she use her energy to dry her hair and quickly put on a new set of clothes. She was still wearing her blue dress. Without a veil, any man who saw her would have their heart shaken. Especially since she had comprehended the true essence of the light attribute. At this moment, the aura around her body had undergone a subtle change. It carried a trace of holiness and was even more indescribable. Wearing her veil, Chen Shui stepped out of the cave and sat cross-legged far away from Chen Hao, also entering a state of cultivation. "Senior brother Lu, you're finally here. You're the only one left. Is the news true or false?" "Of course it's true. Many groups of people have already gone. Even the super geniuses of the 4 great 9th-rank sects have gone. This time, the Black Wind ancient cave will be lively. However, no one has found the red flame beast yet. We still have a chance. Alright, then let's go immediately. It's naturally best if we can get the red flame beast. If not, it's also good to see the super geniuses of the 9th-rank sects. That's right, that's right. Senior Brother Lu, you're not inferior to the super geniuses of the 9th-rank sections a year later. It'll be the intersect competition that's held once every 10 years. With Senior Brother Lu's combat strength, you'll definitely shine at that time. Compared to the top 10 geniuses of the 10 great sects, I'm still a little inferior. However, I'm confident that I can fight a year later. On the other hand, you guys should work hard and strive to enter the nascent soul stage as soon as possible. It's good to be able to see the world. I heard that there's a real genius in the sword riding sect. The disciple called Senior Brother Lu exuded a valiant aura. It was obvious that he was at the peak of the advanced nascent soul stage. Yes. That kid's called Chen Hao. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's said that he's only at the advanced golden core stage, but he killed the super genius of the sword riding sect, Fan Fang. If it's true, this kid might be able to enter the nascent soul stage before the intersect competition. I'm afraid the sword riding sect won't let him go, right? Senior Brother Lu smiled lightly. Senior Brother Lu, the sword riding sect won't dare to act recklessly. Chen Hao and Fan Fang had a fair fight. Moreover, it's said that Chen Hao saved the direct descendant of the sect leader of the Ling Tian sect, Xia Lanlan, and the super genius, Duan Yufei, from the hands of the red flame beast in the ancient Black Wind cave. Therefore, the young master of the Ling Tian sect, Xia Nantian, spread the news that if the sword riding sect dares to break the rules, the Ling Tian sect will intervene. It's obvious that a super genius like Chen Hao has already attracted the favor of the Ling Tian sect. Chen Hao, who was immersed in his cultivation, did not know that his deeds in the ancient Black Wind cave had spread throughout Black Iron City in a short 2 days. In less than half a month, the entire eastern continent was abuzz with the news. Under Xia Nanshan's warning, the sword-riding sect experts who were originally guarding the ancient Black Wind cave's transportation formation all entered the ancient Black Wind cave to vent their frustrations on the red flame beast. Similarly, what Chen Hao did not know was that Xia Nantian had also brought his sister Xia Yuyu, cousin Xia Lanlan, and Duan Yufei into the ancient Black Wind cave. Chapter 263. The main reason why Xia Nantian spread the news was that he could not stand Xia Yuyu's pestering. Of course, he also got permission from the sect leader, Xia Lingfeng, who was also his grandfather. The truth was just as the rumors said. A super genius like Chen Hao had attracted the attention of the Ling Tian sect. Back then, Xia Lingfeng stopped Xia Yutang from killing Chen Hao because he thought of this possibility. Of course, the most important reason was still Xia Yuyu. It had been more than 2 years. He thought that time would fade away the encounter between Xia Yuyu and Chen Hao. However, now, no matter how he looked at it, Chen Hao had become a knot in Xia Yuyu's heart. Xia Lanlan thought that Xia Yuyu could not forget Chen Hao because she did not come into contact with other super genius disciples. However, Xia Lingfeng knew that the mental cultivation method that Xia Yuyu cultivated contained the heartless Tao. Now that she had advanced to the peak of the advanced nascent soul stage, she still could not forget him. What did that mean? Otherwise, based on Chen Hao's performance, Xia Lingfeng would not have allowed Xia Nantian to spread the news. Unfortunately, Xia Lingfeng did not understand Chen Hao's character. Phew, Chen Hao's body shone with a faint green light. He let out a long breath and woke up from his cultivation state. It's been 2 months. It's obviously impossible to become a fatty in one bite on the cultivation path. With my current combat strength, I have nothing to fear if I meet Fujikawa again. I should be able to fight an early nascent soul stage expert, right? Chen Hao thought to himself. After Chen Hao finished refining the light attribute energy, Chen Shui knew that Chen Hao was going to cultivate in seclusion here, so she left first. As for Qin Hao, he cultivated in seclusion here for 2 whole months. The battle with Fujikawa made Qin Hao realize that he had to start cultivating the Taoist scripture's secret. If he did not coincidentally obtain the Doomsday armor set and cast the Dark Wind disaster at the last moment, a small blood-soul technique and territory space would have taken his life. He would not be so lucky every time he encountered a powerful divine ability in the future. However, the cultivation techniques recorded in the Taoist canon were too profound for Qin Hao. He'd tried countless of them with his current cultivation level, yet he was utterly unable to comprehend their profundities. He understood the literal meaning and knew the cultivation method, but every time he cultivated, it would end in him vomiting blood. His realm was too low. Fortunately, the mysterious existence in his mind told him to try the Great Five Elements art when he was about to give up after trying more than 30 types. The Major Five Elements art was a supreme technique ranked in the top 10 of the 3,000 Great Tao. Qin Hao's attempts were ranked last. He had no intention of trying the Major Five Elements art at all. However, it had to be said that the mysterious existence's knowledge was far beyond Qin Hao's. The Great Five Elements art had a total of 5 basic techniques: Greenwood Emperor art, Heavenly Fire Sun Fist, Platinum Sky Splitting Slash, Black Water Sovereign Palm, and Earth Mountain Jumping art. Only by cultivating the 5 basic cultivation methods to the extreme could one be considered to have mastered the Taoist scripture. Only when one truly comprehended its profundity could one unleash its true power. According to the words of the mysterious existence, Qin Hao chose the Platinum Sky Splitting Slash, which had the most murderous aura among the 5 basic cultivation methods of the Great Five Elements art. Although the cultivation process was also unbearably painful, but at least he could cultivate it. After 2 months, Qin Hao finally completed the first level of the Platinum Sky Piercing Slash. Due to the restriction of his realm, he could only use it 3 times before exhausting all his energy. Barely. It's already not bad for you to be able to do this. The Taoist scripture's secret records are all supreme techniques. Only the basic cultivation method of the Taoist scripture can be cultivated at the Golden Elixir realm. But it can only be used as a trump card. Unless it's a last resort, don't use it. Otherwise, it will exhaust your energy in 2 or 3 moves and you will die, the mysterious existence said. What realm do I have to reach before I can use it freely? Qin Hao could not help but ask. You have to be at least at the primordial soul realm before you can use it normally. The 3,000 Great Taos are the true Great Taos that connect the universe. As your cultivation base increases, you will realize that it will become stronger and stronger. But what? Forget it. I can't interfere too much with you. There are some things that I can't tell you for the time being. I don't want to affect your state of mind. My previous masters grew much faster than you under my interference. But in the end, it was proven that I was wrong. Instead, it became their shackles and shackles. Hiss hiss hiss. At noon on the 2nd day, the transportation formation at the entrance of the Black Wind ancient cave in the Heavenly Armament Pavilion shone brightly. One by one, cultivators walked out of the transportation formation one after another. Damn it. I worked for more than a month for nothing. Let's go to Black Iron City to vent our anger. That's enough, old third. What's there to be depressed about? Those sect experts should be even more depressed. They didn't even get the incarnation stage experts, let alone us. This crimson flame beast is really terrifying. Ling Tian sect Xia Yuyu is worthy of being called the super genius young lady in the Eastern continent. We can't compare to her. Exactly. I've never heard of anyone who dared to trigger the heavenly punishment in a battle. Moreover, she destroyed the heavenly punishment with a single strike. It's really unbelievable. Yes, Xia Yuyu is only 19 years old and has already stepped into the incarnation stage. It's definitely not a problem for her to get into the top 3 in this year's sect exchange competition. Moreover, she'll only be 29 years old in the next competition. Who can stop her at that time? Ling Tian's sect is ranked 6th among the top 10 grade 9 sections. This time, just because of Xia Yuyu, I'm afraid they'll rise by 2 ranks. That's not necessarily true. Xia Yuyu did catch up later, but Origin Gate's Chu Qingtian, Sky Sword Sect's Wu Ruochen, and Misty Palace's Lone Star reached the peak of the mastery stage of the nascent soul stage earlier than Xia Yuyu. They just accumulated strength and didn't trigger the heavenly punishment. For Xia Yuyu to advance so quickly, she definitely doesn't have a solid foundation like them. Her combat strength should be inferior. Moreover, there are probably many powerful and young super geniuses from the previous competition. Therefore, not to mention the top 3, even the top 10 is not bad. How's that possible? Don't forget that Xia Yuyu obtained the Crimson Flame Beast's Undying Blood Essence. With her innate talent, she'll definitely be able to comprehend the profundity of the undying body. At that time, how strong will she be? An ordinary-looking figure was mixed in the crowd. He frowned slightly as he listened to the discussions of the cultivators who walked out of the transportation formation. Many of these people were experts at the peak of the mastery stage of the nascent soul stage. Their auras were extremely powerful. Yuyu actually advanced to the incarnation stage. Is the decennial sect exchange competition a year later? This figure was none other than Chen Hao, who had used the transportation talisman to come out. Chen Hao had read about the sect exchange competition in the sect's information. It was held once every 10 years. Only the core disciples of the sect and genius disciples below the age of 40 could participate. In any sect, regardless of grade, the condition to become a core disciple must be at the nascent soul stage. However, those above the age of 40 could no longer participate. Otherwise, it would not be able to test the new strength of the sect. The sect exchange competition was also a reference for the sect's grade and ranking. Being able to obtain good results could not directly increase the sect's grade. However, it could win providence for oneself and the sect. In fact, it was also a battlefield for the various sects to fight for providence. Phew! I must participate in the sect exchange competition. Chen Hao's heart was instantly filled with a myriad of emotions. In this exciting world where martial strength was supreme, the arrogant him was never afraid of competition. Only competition could make his goal clearer and allow him to work tirelessly for it. Moreover, he had already given up on the dragon transformation list. This time, he could not miss the clash between the true super geniuses of the sect. 2 years was already too long. Let alone 10 years. Taking a deep breath, Chen Hao turned into a ray of light and quickly flew in the direction of Black Iron City. Chen Hao. Just as Chen Hao flew a distance away, a familiar voice suddenly floated into his ears from behind. Chen Hao was slightly taken aback. How did she recognize him? Chen Hao did not reply. Instead, he turned around and looked at the person who had just arrived. The person who had just arrived was none other than Yi Feishue and a few inner disciples of the star-picking sect. Sorry. I got the wrong person. When Yi Feishue saw Chen Hao's face, she was slightly taken aback and said apologetically. It's all right. Chen Hao changed his voice and said with a slight smile. At this moment, Chen Hao was wearing the 1000 illusion mask that he had obtained from Fujikawa. If it was only Yi Feishue, he would have recognized her. However, there were a few disciples that he did not recognize. Hence, just in case, Chen Hao could only say this. At the same time, he transmitted his voice to Yi Feishue, senior sister, how did you recognize me? Yi Feishue was slightly taken aback. Then, she replied calmly, it's really you. I thought I got the wrong person. When I walked out of the teleportation portal, I only saw your back. When I transmitted my voice, I felt that it was not your aura, you're wearing a mask. Yes. It's better to be careful. Previously, I was targeted as soon as I stepped out of the star-picking sect. Now that I've killed Fan Fong, I'm afraid the sword sect won't let me go. They won't. The sword sect won't dare to act recklessly. Since the Ling Tian sect has intervened, they can only take revenge on you as an inner disciple. Without absolute confidence, they won't dare to act recklessly. The Ling Tian sect has intervened? Chen Hao was slightly taken aback. Let's talk when we reach Black Iron City. There's a restaurant called the First Fragrance in the city center. I'll meet you there alone. While Yi Feishue was transmitting her voice, she had already sped up and led the group to overtake Chen Hao so that the people around her would not be suspicious. Alright. Along the way, Chen Hao encountered countless cultivators with a powerful cultivation base. Obviously, these people had just come out of the Black Wind ancient cave. They had only come out after Xia Yuyu had killed the Red Flame Beast. Chen Hao maintained the speed of a Mastery Golden Core stage. It was neither fast nor slow and did not attract much attention. However, he was conflicted. No matter what, Chen Hao did not expect the Ling Tian sect to protect him. Although he could not guess what was going on, Chen Hao did not care. However, Xia Yuyu must have known about his situation. Other than killing the Red Flame Beast, she must have come to the Black Wind ancient cave to look for him. Had she come out now? Should he meet her? Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 264. Black Iron City, the center of the city, the One Fragrance restaurant. In the world of cultivation, cultivators, especially those above the Golden Elixir stage, had already reached the stage where they did not need ordinary food to provide nourishment. However, any city had countless restaurants. Furthermore, the business of restaurants had always been booming, especially in densely populated large cities. This was because restaurants were one of the places where cultivators gathered. It was also one of the best places for cultivators to obtain information. The One Fragrance restaurant was located in the most prosperous area of Black Iron City. It was a famous restaurant in Black Iron City. Ordinary people did not have the qualifications to enter. This was a restaurant that catered to cultivators. More than an hour later, Chen Hao arrived at the entrance of the One Fragrance restaurant at a moderate pace. Before he entered, the strong aroma of wine and food assaulted his senses. This made Chen Hao, who had not tasted good wine and food for a long time, to have a great appetite. Little brother, the private rooms of the restaurant are full. You can only eat in the main hall. The waiter quickly came up and said. After entering the world of cultivation, Chen Hao, who had entered a restaurant for the first time, was slightly surprised. A waiter was actually a martial sage cultivator. It's okay. My friend is already here, Chen Hao said as he walked towards a table for two in the main hall. Yi Feishue waved at him. The world of cultivation is indeed different. Just a restaurant and there are so many experts. Chen Hao sat opposite Yi Feishue and said with a sigh. There's nothing strange about this. The One Fragrance restaurant is a restaurant in Black Iron City that caters specifically to cultivators. The food and drinks here are all made from precious spiritual herbs and spiritual items. For cultivators, it's a rare delicacy. Most importantly, you can obtain a lot of information about the world of cultivation here. After you've trained for a period of time, you'll understand. Restaurants, inns, and the Immortal Way Union are places that disciples often go to for training, Yi Feishue said with a slight smile. Chen Hao nodded. Restaurants were the best places in the cultivation world for news. When cultivators entered a city and wanted to obtain the latest news, they would usually stay in restaurants. Most cultivators had ulterior motives, and most of them were not here for the fine wine and delicacies. Inns, on the other hand, were a necessity. They could provide cultivators with a relatively safe place to cultivate, especially in the cultivation world where the strong preyed on the weak. As for the Immortal Dao Union, that was even more important. This was an indispensable place for cultivators to obtain wealth. The various levels of missions could not only allow cultivators to obtain the best training, but also allow them to obtain the corresponding rewards at the same time. Furthermore, because of the strict division of the levels, cultivators could also determine the missions that were suitable for them according to their own strength. After the two of them chatted for a while, Chen Hao asked through voice transmission, "Senior sister, you haven't told the sect that you've seen me, right?" "No. You've already escaped from the Great Elder's pursuit," senior sister won't be so talkative. The sect leader values you so much that even us core disciples are jealous, especially after the news of you killing Fan Fang spread. The sect leader immediately sent 3 elders and more than 20 sect experts in 3 groups. They only returned when the Ling Tian sect showed up. Can the Ling Tian sect stop the Flying Sword sect if they show up? Chen Hao asked. It's absolutely impossible. But at least, the Flying Sword sect won't dare to act recklessly. A dead genius is no longer a genius. No matter how much the Flying Sword sect values Fan Fang, they won't embarrass the Ling Tian sect because of a dead person. That's not worth it. You mean the Flying Sword sect won't dare to trouble me? That's not it. They definitely want to deal with you, but they can't do it through the Flying Sword sect's experts unless they're confident that they can kill you without any evidence and seal off all news. Otherwise, it can only be a fight between the sect's disciples. So, you're right to be careful. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble if you meet their core disciples. I came to the Black Wind Ancient Cave specifically to try my luck and see if I can get the Red Flame Beast. Secondly, I want to see if I can meet you. Senior sister, don't worry. With this mask, even their core disciples won't be able to recognize me. Don't worry. I'm afraid your mask is a middle-grade spirit weapon, right? It's very good. If I didn't call out to you when I saw your back, I would have denied it when I sensed your aura. However, I suggest you use this mask less. Otherwise, it'll greatly affect your future achievements. Chen Hao frowned slightly and looked at Yi Feishue with a puzzled expression. You've only been in the cultivation world for a short time, so you probably haven't heard about providence. Whether it's a sectless cultivator or a sect's disciple, the immortal Tao, the devil Tao, or the demon Tao, they're all related to the providence of heaven and earth. Fame and reputation, which many people in the secular world despise, are closely related to providence, regardless of whether it's good or evil. No one can explain it clearly, but it's the truth. Otherwise, how could there be any notorious people in the cultivation world? Just like Itoda, he's skilled in concealment and possession, but he still leaves his name behind. Because that's the only way his providence can become stronger. Oh, that's really mysterious. Chen Hao said with a slight surprise. He suddenly understood why most of the geniuses in the cultivation world were so arrogant and insufferably arrogant. Why don't junior brother come with me to train? With senior sister here, even if we meet their core disciples, as long as they aren't too strong and we can't defeat them, escaping shouldn't be a problem. Yi Feishue stared into Chen Hao's eyes and said. There's no need. With my current strength, I'll only be a burden to you if I follow you. Moreover, to me, it'll lose the meaning of training. Otherwise, I wouldn't have deliberately left head elder behind. Chen Hao said with a slight smile. That's true. You can even leave head elder behind, so I've worried too much. What's your plan after this? I'm going to the 100 Empire ranking. Right, senior sister, if we want to return to the secular world, do we have to go through the Chamber of Commerce? Yes. The cost is very high. Moreover, we'll be restricted by the Chamber of Commerce and the Heavenly Tao. Why do you want to return to the secular world? To see my parents and family, Chen Hao said with a smile. Hearing Chen Hao's words, Yi Feishue was slightly taken aback and said, I didn't expect someone like you to be so attached to his family. It's really rare. With your current strength and status, your family should be under the protection of the Empire. As long as you don't fall, your family will become stronger and stronger. What's there to worry about? However, you've just arrived in the cultivation world, so it's understandable. But in the future, it's best to cut off your feelings. Otherwise, it'll become a knot in your heart and evolve into an inner demon. The great Tao is heartless. Since you've already transcended that plane, you can't have too much attachment. However, if you really can't give it up, then work hard to reach the primordial spirit realm and become a supreme leader. At that time, you can bring everyone in your family to the cultivation world and become a family in the cultivation world. You can do that. Chen Hao said in surprise. Of course. If you can reach the primordial spirit realm, it'll be enough to prove that your bloodline and talent contain ancient bloodlines. It's definitely not something an ordinary person can compare to. And your family will naturally have such people. This isn't explicitly stated in the cultivation world, but it's tacitly accepted by all the sections. In the entire eastern continent, many families come from low-level dynasties, Yi Feishue said. It seems like, you're really moved. I believe you can do it. However, by the time you can do it, I'm afraid your parents, siblings, and close friends will already be gone. You don't have a heart. After all, the lifespan of an ordinary person is too short. The two of them chatted for a while before the dishes were served. Chen Hao had a great appetite. As he ate, he chatted with Yi Feishue. From the discussions of the people around and Yi Feishue's words, Chen Hao understood some information that was not mentioned in the sex information. The name that appeared the most frequently was Xia Yuyu, who had successfully reached the incarnation realm and obtained the undying blood essence of the red flame beast 2 days ago. The second was the super geniuses from the 4 grade, 9 sects in the Black Wind ancient cave. Just when Chen Hao and Yi Feishue were about to leave, 3 powerful auras suddenly came from the entrance of the restaurant. The cultivators who were sitting near the entrance immediately stopped talking and stared at the entrance with their eyes wide open. Then, 3 figures walked in under the guidance of the waiter respectfully. The entire hall instantly quieted down. The unbridled chatter turned into whispers. Young Lady Xia, the first fragrance is the most unique restaurant in Black Iron City. Brother Xia, you know that it's full every day. Ha! Young Lady Xia, you'll like it. I booked the best private room here the day before yesterday. We're just waiting for Brother Xia and Young Lady Xia. The person in the middle is Ling Tian Sec Xia Nantian. He was ranked 4th in the last intersect competition. His combat strength is unfathomable. He's now a powerhouse at the peak of the mastery stage of the incarnation stage and is known as one of the 4 great young masters. The person speaking on the left is Wu Ruochen, a super genius from the grade 9 sect, Heaven's Sword sect. It's hard to say where he'll place in the new 4 great young masters a year later. Junior brother? Yes. I'm listening. Chen Hao nodded, but his gaze was fixed on the devastatingly beautiful figure standing beside Xia Nantian, Xia Yuyu. Seeing Chen Hao's gaze, Yi Feishue smiled and helplessly shook her head. At this moment, not to mention Chen Hao, all the men in the hall had their gazes fixed on Xia Yuyu, unable to move even an inch. Even as a woman, Yi Feishue had to admit that Xia Yuyu, who was known as the #1 beauty in the eastern continent, was not someone she could compare to. Big brother, Brother Wu, can we stay in the hall? While Xia Nantian and Wu Ruochen were chatting, Xia Yuyu suddenly asked. At the same time, her clear and beautiful eyes slowly swept across the cultivators in the hall, as if she was looking for someone. Although she did not do it deliberately, the aura of stepping into the incarnation realm caused the cultivators who were staring at her to hurriedly avoid her gaze. Their faces were filled with shame and their hearts were filled with shame. Chapter 265. Chen Hao also avoided those familiar eyes. This. Hearing Xia Yuyu's words, Wu Ruochen frowned as he looked at the noisy crowd. Yuyu has never experienced anything and likes crowds. Brother Wu, let's just sit in the hall. Xia Nantian said softly when Wu Ruochen was feeling awkward. With Wu Ruochen's cultivation, he wasn't at the level where he could talk to him. Moreover, he was 10 years younger. But Wu Ruochen's potential was something that Xia Nantian couldn't ignore. Although he knew that Wu Ruochen's main goal was to befriend his sister, he didn't mind. Since Xia Yuyu was about to start her training, it was a good thing for her to meet some super geniuses. Of course, Xia Nantian also knew why his sister wanted to sit in the hall. Oh, I see. Miss Xia should have come into contact with the world of cultivation long ago. Wu Ruochen said as he looked at the people in the hall. Everyone, please feel free to chat. If there's anything interesting, just say it. I, Wu Ruochen, will pay for everyone's expenses. Thank you, thank you. Some of the cultivators in the crowd immediately responded. There was an empty table next to Qin Hao and Yi Feishue. The three quickly sat down. Coincidentally, Xia Yuyu's position was facing Yi Feishue, so she could see Qin Hao's back. Sister, are you a disciple of the star-picking sect? What made Qin Hao confused was that Xia Yuyu, who had never experienced anything, was still so naive and cute that it was a bit scary. After seeing the mark on Yi Feishue's chest, she didn't care about the gazes of the crowd and directly asked with her pleasant voice. Yes. Miss Xia. Yi Feishue was slightly stunned and quickly said. She also didn't think that Xia Yuyu would ask. In her opinion, Xia Yuyu was a super genius of a 9th-rank sect and didn't want to have anything to do with people like them. Yuyu. Xia Yuyu still wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Xia Nantian. Senior sister, we're done eating. Let's go. Qin Hao stood up and said. If he stayed any longer, he was afraid that he would reveal a flaw. Especially since Yi Feishue had recognized his back. After not seeing Xia Yuyu for 2 years, he had already changed a lot. Although Xia Yuyu was unable to recognize him in the Northern Shadow Festival, if his emotions fluctuated and he revealed a trace of the Heaven Yang Earth Yin Arts aura, Xia Yuyu might be able to detect it. Moreover, even if he wanted to acknowledge Yuyu, this was not the right time. Every single one of them was stronger than him. Xia Nantian and Xia Yuyu were much stronger than him, but that was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that Wu Ruochen's aura was also much stronger than his. However, the moment Qin Hao stood up, the three of them looked at Qin Hao. Wu Ruochen didn't seem to care. However, Xia Nantian and Xia Yuyu both frowned. The two of them were both experts of the incarnation realm. If they didn't pay attention, they wouldn't have noticed it. But now that they saw that the other party was a disciple of the star-seizing sect, Xia Nantian and Xia Yuyu began to carefully size them up. When he saw Qin Hao's face, he immediately caught a trace of a mysterious aura. Wait, what made Qin Hao's heart tremble was that Xia Yuyu's voice carried a trace of inexplicable excitement. She thought of a possibility. Originally, when she came to the Black Iron City, she had sensed Qin Hao's aura, but it had disappeared in an instant. She thought that it was her imagination. But later, when she heard Xia Lanlan and Duan Yufei talk about Qin Hao after returning to the Black Iron City, she began to suspect that it was not an illusion, but a real encounter with Qin Hao. She didn't know why Qin Hao didn't acknowledge her, but she believed that Qin Hao must have his reasons. Because she understood him. After 1.5 years of soul intertwining, comprehending and cultivating together, she believed and was incomparably sure that Qin Hao would never forget her. Miss Xia, is there anything else? Yi Feishue looked at Xia Yuyu with a little surprise and asked. But Qin Hao didn't turn around. He already knew that he had made a mistake. The middle-grade Thousand Illusion mask could hide from nascent soul experts, but it couldn't hide from incarnation experts. Although the other party couldn't confirm his true identity, they could definitely see that he was wearing a mask. This point, he and Qin Shui, who had powerful soul force, could see through it, let alone them. Sorry, big brother, I know. This sister, if you see Qin Hao, please tell him that I. Yuyu. My cousin Xia Lanlan and Duan Yufei, they really want to see him. Xia Yuyu was simple but not stupid. Her words paused at the right time. Except for Qin Hao and Xia Nantian, no one understood what was going on. Xia Nantian lightly sighed in relief. At this moment, Xia Yuyu had suddenly broken through to incarnation realm. It was already impossible for him to suppress her with his aura. Moreover, he couldn't bear to see Yuyu's stubbornness. Therefore, he only reminded her and didn't forcefully stop her. Could that guy be Qin Hao? Xia Nantian also had doubts in his heart. I can pass on this message. Just as Yi Feishue was in a daze, Qin Hao finally turned his head and said, Qin Hao and I are best friends. I even saw him in the dark wind cave. He also told me that he really wants to ascend to a high enough realm as soon as possible and become friends with super geniuses like brother Duan Yufei. Unfortunately, his current strength is too weak. He doesn't dare to climb the social ladder. I will tell him. However, with his character, I'm afraid that I can only disappoint brother Duan's invitation. Is that so? My cousin and Duan Yufei will wait for him. Wait for him to be strong enough. And it shouldn't be too long. Perhaps he will participate in the intersect competition next year. We'll take our leave. Chen Hao didn't dare to look at Xia Yuyu's eyes under everyone's gaze. After speaking, he took the lead and walked out of the restaurant. Yi Feishue followed closely behind. So it really is him. Good, he's arrogant enough. I wonder if his true face is as good as Duan Yufei said. Xia Nantian thought to himself as he watched Chen Hao's departing figure. Duan Yufei is a righteous person. After watching the two leave, Wu Ruochen smiled and said, it's rare for the Zhaixing sect to produce a passable genius like Chen Hao. However, their disciples think too highly of him. Is it so easy to break through to the nascent soul realm? Even he had been stuck at the peak of the late-stage golden core realm for more than a year. Only after confirming that there were no problems did he dare to trigger heaven's punishment. However, Chen Hao was only at the late-stage golden core realm. Although he could kill Fan Fong without any problems in terms of battle strength, heaven's punishment didn't just test one's battle strength. It also tested one's body, mind, and soul. If there were any problems in any of these areas, one's cultivation would be destroyed. Let's not talk about this. I heard that Brother Wu has mastered the 9th level of the Heaven Sword technique. Xia Nantian hurriedly said. He knew his sister's personality. Fortunately, Xia Yuyu didn't seem to hear Wu Ruochen. The intersect competition. Only Chen Hao's voice reverberated in Xia Yuyu's mind. Even though he'd changed his voice and appearance, his words from before had undoubtedly told him that he was Chen Hao. It had also undoubtedly told her why he hadn't come to see her. At the same time, it had also told her that the intersect competition might be the moment when the prideful him would truly meet her. Inadvertently, a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. She didn't release her telepathy, and neither did Chen Hao. However, both of them knew that the reason why they had spoken so openly was not through telepathy or telepathy. They were afraid that they wouldn't be able to control themselves. Junior brother, do you want to participate in next year's intersect competition? After the two walked out of the restaurant, Yi Feishue couldn't help but ask. Chen Hao smiled faintly and nodded. His eyes shone brightly. When he first had this idea, although he would work hard in that direction, he wasn't as determined as he was now. Tian Fa is very dangerous. Yi Feishue said with lingering fear. I'm confident. Senior sister, let's part here. I'm going to Dragon Elephant City where the 100 Empire role is located, Chen Hao said. Be careful. After bidding farewell to Yi Feishue, Chen Hao went directly to the Heavenly Armament Pavilion's teleportation array. Passing through the transportation formations, they arrived at Dragon Elephant City in less than an hour. At this moment, the sky had already darkened. The night seemed to come earlier than Black Iron City, which was millions of miles away. Looks like today's competition has already ended. I wonder how many rounds have passed. I'll go find Elder Wu and Senior Sister first. Chen Hao casually asked around in the Heavenly Armament Pavilion and found out where Wu Zichuan and Dong Fangting were staying. The Heavenly Armament Inn was a large and open to cultivators in the Heavenly Armament Pavilion. Li Chou, do you dare to bet? Why wouldn't I dare? I bet that Hellion Wuzi will be the champion. Fuck. Then why did you say that? Didn't you always say that Kai Hua was awesome? Why did you change your mind now? Do you think I'm an idiot? Kai Hua is awesome, but Hellion Wuzi hid her strength too deeply. Even the so-called most awesome 100 Empire ranking in the previous competition was trampled by her. Chen Hao had just walked into the hall of the Heavenly Armament Inn when he heard some young disciples discussing. These disciples were clearly some outer sect disciples of some sections. What made Qin Hao smile even more was that Helian Wuzi seemed to have exceeded his expectations. "Sir, are you staying in the inn or drinking wine?" At this moment, a beautiful attendant came over with a smile. "Staying in the inn and drinking wine. Get a room with me first, and bring me a few bottles of your best wine," Qin Hao said with a smile. "All right. Sit anywhere you like, please wait a moment." Qin Hao's powerful aura attracted some outer sect disciples in the hall. However, Qin Hao did not wear the Zhai Xing sect's robes, so no one could guess. Qin Hao did not pay attention to them. He chose a corner and started drinking by himself, his ears gathering information about the 100 Empire ranking. It must be said that this kind of drinking place was indeed the best place to spread news. Little Wu is actually a rank 3 martial saint, and she can even hide her cultivation. Then is rank 3 martial saint her true cultivation? Hearing the discussions of the crowd, Qin Hao's mood became better and better. Chapter 266. Needless to say, Helian Wuzi must have obtained an extremely powerful legacy. Of course, being able to have such a cultivation in the secular world had a lot to do with him. Qin Hao didn't know the specifics, but the treatment that Helian Wuzi enjoyed was probably countless times better than what he had received. In addition to this, there was also the most mysterious and unpredictable fate in the world. However, Qin Hao didn't think that he would have much effect on this. It would definitely be helpful, but it mainly depended on one's fate and opportunity. However, when he heard the names of Mo Yui and Dongfang Jun, Qin Hao faintly felt that perhaps the impact of his fate on everyone was beyond his expectations. Little Mo has also reached the 9th grade of Sword Grandmaster, Dongfang Jun is a 9th grade Martial Grandmaster. Jinyuan Kingdom has taken up 3 places, and they are all so strong, far from what our batch can compare to. Is this really the fate that I brought to them? It's just that, my fate is so strong, is it my own, or? Qin Hao thought of Xia Yuyu. Fate and fate are actually fate. It is the most mysterious existence in the world. Among the 3,000 great Daos, the great fate technique ranks first. It is illusory and unfathomable. With my current realm, I'm unable to understand it at all, nor am I able to understand it. Karmic luck is like an invisible web of relationships that affect and restrict each other. No matter if it's my own karmic luck or the karmic luck of others, if I can grasp it, then it's mine. Qin Hao got the information he wanted and didn't stay any longer. He quickly finished the wine in front of him, went directly to the room he had booked, and entered the cultivation room. However, he didn't immediately enter the cultivation room. Instead, he began to organize his storage space for the first time. It took him a full 4 hours to finish. If converted into 8th grade elixirs, I'm afraid there are nearly 100 million of them. Duan Yufei, Itota, and Fujikawa are enough to take up more than 80% of them. Qin Hao didn't hesitate to filter out some of the 8th grade elixirs, 9th grade elixirs, and the spirit weapons that he didn't need. According to Yang Fan, Li Yifeng, Ni Jianpain, Helian Wuzi, Mo Yui, and Dongfang Jun, he divided them into 6 portions, enough for them to use for a period of time. He then gave a large portion to Dongfang Ting. Although Dongfang Ting was in the Golden Core realm, Qin Hao knew that her wealth was limited. Otherwise, when he returned to the secular world, he wouldn't have been so shabby. Although Qin Hao thought that he was super rich at that time, he didn't have to worry about it. But now, compared to the nouveau riche Qin Hao, there was really no comparison. Not to mention Dongfang Ting, even the super genius disciples of the 9th rank sects might not be as wealthy as Qin Hao. Qin Hao planned to bring back the rest of the things that he didn't need. On the second day, at the first glimmer of dawn, Qin Hao went to the practice field where the 100 Empire ranking competition was being held. He bought the tickets and sat among the crowd that had arrived earlier than him. Today was the second day of the round-robin tournament for the top 20 of the 100 Empire ranking. Helian Wuzi, Mo Yui, and Dongfang Jun, the 3 of them had all entered the top 20, and Helian Wuzi was unanimously recognized as the champion by everyone. Moue and Dongfang Jun also had the strength to enter the top 10, because during the selection, the two of them had only admitted defeat. Chen Hao had already obtained this information last night. At this moment, the surrounding people's discussions were even more heated, and countless disciples were drooling over Helian Wuzi. At first, Chen Hao was still interested, but after listening for a while, he had the urge to kill. He simply blocked his hearing. He couldn't be serious just because of some flowery words. An hour later, the sky was bright. The practice field was already crowded with people. The disciples of the 100 Empire ranking were like dense locusts, directly flying in the air. The number of people was not much different from the previous competition, but whether it was individual soldiers or as a whole, the aura was much stronger than the previous competition. At this moment, Chen Hao, who seemed to be resting with his eyes closed, finally opened his eyes. He released his powerful soul perception and instantly locked onto a beautiful figure. Wearing a white dress, long hair fluttering in the wind, a graceful and exquisite body, and a face as cold as the moon, after not seeing her for 2 years, the only girl that Chen Hao had called femme fatale, and had taken advantage of appeared even more beautiful and moving. Even if Chen Hao saw her again, his heart trembled slightly. Especially when he thought of how Helian Wuzi seemed to have gone crazy when he left, her face full of tears as she crashed into the transmission light pillar barrier. Chen Hao was even more moved. Although he didn't compare Helian Wuzi, Tan Tai Yan, or Xia Yuyu, Chen Hao was clear that the one who truly made him feel the most understanding, the most warm, and the most real was still Helian Wuzi. Moue, who used to be like a block of wood, was still tightly holding on to that large sword. However, he was no longer a block of wood, but an unsheathed peerless treasure sword. His expression was cold, and his aura was cold. Especially his eyes, which were like two sharp and merciless sword lights. From beginning to end, he maintained a distance of 5 steps to the right of Helian Wuzi and 2 steps to the back. As for Dongfang Jun, who had once wanted to violently beat him to death, his handsome face still looked as infuriating as before. Arrogance were written all over his face. However, the position he stood in was very tacit with Moue, as if he had become Helian Wuzi's bodyguard. Little Mo, my aunt said that Chen Hao would come. Our 100 Empire ranking is already nearing the end, but there's still no sign of him. Could it be that something happened? Dongfang Jun said in a low voice. Call me second brother. Call me boss. Nothing will happen to boss. Moue said coldly. This problem, wait until you have the strength to defeat me. There's no problem with calling you boss, it's just that I can't change the way I address you right now. Although my aunt didn't say it clearly, I feel that boss seems to have offended a very powerful person. You were also very powerful back then. Today, I'll make you kneel down. Fuck, can you not talk about the past? Today, you're dreaming, right? I'll never be surpassed by you. Strange, even I can't see through it. Chen Hao looked at the 3 people, as well as the 2 disciples behind them whose auras were obviously much weaker. Especially when he heard Moue and Dongfang Jun's conversation, he was completely relieved. But carefully sensing Helian Wuzi's aura, he was actually unable to distinguish her true realm. This made Chen Hao incomparably surprised. One must know that Chen Hao's soul perception was many times stronger than ordinary people. It was not something that people of the same realm or even 2 realms higher than him could compare to. But Helian Wuzi's aura was like the clouds in the sky, erratic and unfathomable. What kind of fortuitous encounter did she have in these 2 years? After Helian Wuzi and the other disciples of the 100 Empire ranking took their seats one after another, Chen Hao retracted his gaze and looked at the sect elders and the inner sect disciples who came slowly. After seeing Elder Wu and Dongfang Ting at the back of the group, they slowly stood up. Elder Wu flew directly to the rostrum. Dongfang Ting flew to the outer sect low-level disciples accompanying the 100 Empire ranking trial in the Jiaxing sect. Chen Hao smiled slightly. When he transmitted a message to Dongfang Ting, his figure flashed and quickly approached. After a while, Chen Hao sat beside Dongfang Ting. His identity became an inner sect disciple of the Jiaxing sect. But none of the outer sect disciples sitting at the back recognized him. The two of them communicated through voice transmission without changing their expressions. Chen Hao obtained a lot of information about the Shao family, Jinyuan Kingdom, and Xuanwu Empire from Dongfang Ting. In 2 years' time, astonishing changes had occurred again. Especially the Shao family and Jinyuan Kingdom. The two of them only stopped talking 2 hours after the competition started. As Chen Hao expected, Helian Wuzi did not even have a chance to appear after a day. In front of her, the only one who did not admit defeat was the strongest disciple, Kai Hua. The two of them would definitely be arranged for the last match of the 100 Empire ranking. Fortunately, Mo Yue and Dongfang Jun had fought twice. The first time, both of their opponents were experts in the top 20, but both of them displayed powerful battle strength and obtained victory. But their opponents in the second match were each other. After fighting for half an hour, there was still no winner. Mo Yue's sword intent was incomparably sharp, attacking more than defending. But Dongfang Jun's battle talent was stronger. Although he was suppressed by Mo Yue could not do anything to him. In the end, the two of them were depressed and declared a draw again. When the day's competition ended, Dongfang Ting brought Chen Hao and flew directly to Helian Wuzi's side. "Aunt, is there any news about Chen Hao?" Dongfang Jun did not care at all when he saw the unfamiliar face of Chen Hao. He went directly to Dongfang Ting and asked. Helian Wuzi and Mo Yue also stared at Dongfang Ting. Obviously, Dongfang Ting's arrival made the three of them faintly expectant. "No, the two of us are here today as lobbyists. We'll go back with you." Dongfang Ting smiled and said. Hearing Dongfang Ting's words, Helian Wuzi's beautiful and cold eyes flashed with imperceptible disappointment. Mo Yue also resumed his cold appearance. "What lobbyists, can we still run away?" Dongfang Jun said. "Okay, I have to put on an act and talk to you about the conditions promised by the sect. After all, the three of you are the most outstanding, especially Xiao Wu, the two of them are not bad either." Dongfang Ting could only follow Chen Hao's intentions and temporarily lie to Helian Wuzi and the others. "Then let's go. This senior brother's aura is so strong. Aunt, is he also an inner disciple of the Zhaixing sect?" "Yes. I'll introduce him to you when you stay. Let's go." Chen Hao smiled and did not speak. Helian Wuzi and Mo Yue were the same. If they could not speak, they would not speak more than half a sentence. "Junior brother, I'll talk to the two of them. Xiao Wu, little Mo, and little Jun, do you want to talk to them one by one or all together?" After everyone flew for a few minutes and returned to the independent palace where the disciples of the 100 Empire ranking temporarily lived, Dongfang Ting looked at Chen Hao and then at Helian Wuzi and said. Mo Yue and Dongfang Jun together. Helian Wuzi alone. Chen Hao said straightforwardly. He looked at Helian Wuzi and said, "Go to the room and wait for me. I'll talk to the two of them first." "Let's go." Hearing Chen Hao's words, Helian Wuzi and the others were slightly stunned. Immediately, Helian Wuzi finally spoke. Her voice naturally carried a bone-chilling coldness as she said, "I don't need to talk anymore. I don't care about any conditions. I'll go and cultivate first." After Helian Wuzi finished speaking, she turned and walked towards a palace. "Xiao Wu, you really don't want to talk?" At this moment, Chen Hao suddenly said. He recovered his voice and a smile appeared on his ordinary face. "I wish everyone a happy Mid-Autumn Festival and a happy National Day. Wushan is now on the way to Chengdu. I really can't explode. I can only apologize to everyone." Chapter 267. Helian Wuzi's heart skipped a beat. She turned around abruptly and looked at Chen Hao with a trace of surprise and doubt in her cold eyes. Mo Yue and Dongfang Jun's expressions changed too. That familiar voice, who else could it be but Chen Hao? Although they had not seen each other for 2 years and Qin Hao's voice had changed slightly, Helian Wuzi, Moue, and Dongfang Jun could still recognize it. However, the aura and appearance of the person in front of them were completely different. Wait for me in the room. I'll talk to little Mo and Dongfang Jun first, Qin Hao said to Helian Wuzi. After speaking, he took the lead and walked towards the palace. Moue and Dongfang Jun looked at each other and followed. Senior sister, he is, Shu. Just wait for him to talk to you. Dongfang Ting smiled and stopped Helian Wuzi. After speaking, she brought the other 2 disciples of the Xuanwu Empire to a room. These 2 disciples were far from Helian Wuzi and the other 2 in terms of strength and realm, but they were also quite outstanding in this year's 100 Empire ranking. However, Qin Hao did not have any relationship with them. It was not important whether he could win them over. What was important was that he did not want them to know Qin Hao's identity. Qin Hao. Boss. After stepping into the room, Qin Hao's aura suddenly changed and he took off the 1,000 illusion mask. Dongfang Jun and Moue immediately cried out in surprise. What's there to be surprised about? I want to hide from some people, so I hid my identity. Boss, you offended someone powerful? Moue interrupted Qin Hao and frowned. He could not help but emit a fierce murderous aura. Why are you so agitated? We can't help anyone who can make boss hide. We can only add to the trouble. However, Qin Hao. Boss, did you offend someone powerful? Although Aunt did not say it clearly, I can feel. Dongfang Jun said. I've already killed him. Don't worry. I just want to go and train. I don't want the sect behind him to know his whereabouts at all times. Well, I'll be leaving soon, so I'll make a long story short. Although the star-picking sect was only a 3rd-grade sect, they had an advantage before reaching the Golden Elixir realm. Hence, the competition was very fierce. Therefore, the 2 of you should do your best to fight for a place in the 100 Empire ranking. Firstly, you need to win the sect master's reward. Secondly, you need to fight for your own luck. Today, I saw the disciples on the 100 Empire ranking. The 2 of you are 3rd and 4th. There is still hope. After entering the sect, senior sister Dongfang Ting will explain everything to you. This is for the 2 of you. As Qin Hao spoke, he took out 2 storage rings that he had prepared and placed them in front of Moue and Dongfang Jun. What is it? They're things that can be used for cultivation, such as pills, spirit weapons, and ultimate techniques. I chose it based on the 2 of you, so it should be useful. Once you arrive at the Star-Seizing sect, find Yang Fan, Li Yifeng, and Ni Jian Pain and come directly to my mountain peak to cultivate. Alright, the 2 of you still have to compete tomorrow. Go and cultivate. I'll leave directly later. I won't bother you anymore. Qin Hao said. Moue still wanted to say something, but Dongfang Jun directly pulled him back and said, Alright, then quickly go and see little Wu, hee. We'll talk about it after you return to the star-picking sect. When Qin Hao appeared in front of Helian Wuzi, her delicate body trembled slightly. She wanted to say something but stopped. She stared blankly at the extraordinarily handsome Qin Hao. 2 years. In these 2 years, she had been cultivating crazily all the time in order to step into the cultivation world and catch up with his footsteps. Especially when she heard that Tan Tai Lian and he had obtained the inheritance of the Phoenix at the same time, she became even crazier, and now, she finally met him. Why, you don't recognize me? Qin Hao smiled slightly and stared at Helian Wuzi's beautiful little face. Faintly, Qin Hao caught a trace of a strange aura from Helian Wuzi's eyes. I don't recognize you. Helian Wuzi turned her face away and said. She looked away with a trace of imperceptible excitement in her eyes. Then I'll beat you until you recognize me. Come, let me see what realm you're in. Qin Hao said with a slight smile. You're already in the late stage of the Golden Core realm. You still want to bully me? Helian Wuzi turned her head and said. Are you weak? Chen Hao said. You can tell. When Helian Wuzi heard Chen Hao say fight, her heart was even more excited. But now, when she heard Chen Hao say so, her eyes widened in surprise. Nothing can hide from me. Do you want to fight? If you don't, then tell me what's going on. I'm very curious. In the 2 years in the secular world, what exactly did you encounter to be so strong? Chen Hao said. Tell me first, how can you tell? Helian Wuzi said. Intuition. Not to mention you, I can even feel an expert of the nascent soul realm. Tell me quickly, what's going on? Chen Hao urged. When Chen Hao came to Dragon Elephant City and heard the news about Helian Wuzi, he was only surprised. Especially those disciples who were discussing, none of them could accurately tell Helian Wuzi's realm. Originally, Chen Hao only thought that these low-level disciples had limited eyesight. But after seeing Helian Wuzi and talking to Dongfang Ting, he understood that it wasn't that those disciples had low eyesight, but even Elder Wu and the other sect elders couldn't see through her. Similarly, what surprised Chen Hao even more was that even he couldn't see through her. How strong was his soul perception? I don't know. You don't know? Yes. I didn't encounter any powerful legacy, but... But what? I can't tell you. Unless you defeat me. I only know that my current realm should be in the late stage of the nascent soul realm. Helian Wuzi said. In fact, even if Chen Hao defeated her, she couldn't say why. Everything came out of nowhere. Cough cough. Chen Hao almost choked. Although he felt that Helian Wuzi definitely had a shocking improvement, it was more likely that she had obtained some kind of powerful treasure that could make her aura become so mysterious. But no matter what, Chen Hao didn't expect Helian Wuzi to have improved to a realm that he couldn't even reach. This was a bit unbelievable. This time, I'll definitely defeat you. Helian Wuzi glared at Chen Hao. She spoke with her head held high, come. This. Little Wu, I think we should forget it. If you can't say, how can I force you? I have something important to do now, and I've already told little Mo and Dongfang Jun. After meeting you, I'll leave. You want to run? I really have something important to do. If you don't believe me, you can ask little Mo and the rest. Chen Hao said. But seeing that Helian Wuzi's aura was slowly changing and didn't have any intention of letting him go, he hurriedly said again, how about, a year later? A year later, I'll give you a chance to take revenge. The realm difference is too big. If you really want to fight, I won't fight back. Rascal. Well, I'll wait for you for a year. A year later, if the realm difference is even bigger, I don't care. Okay. If that's the case, I'll let you take it back. That's settled. This is for you. No, it seems to be useless. What is it? Helian Wuzi directly took it from Chen Hao's hands and asked. At the same time, she used her mind to explore the storage ring that Chen Hao had erased. After seeing the things inside, she said, what I lack the most now are elixirs. I need a lot of them for cultivation, but they're not very useful. Don't tell me you don't know that your realm needs to start using primordial crystal stones. Primordial crystal stones. Helian Wuzi was slightly stunned. These are all for you. Seeing Helian Wuzi's expression, Chen Hao was sure that Helian Wuzi was ignorant, just like him. There was no other way. The foundation of Jinyuan Kingdom was too weak after all. Moreover, Helian Wuzi definitely did not reveal her realm. Otherwise, she would definitely know about primordial crystal stones. Compared to the genius disciples of some powerful kingdoms, her knowledge was indeed far inferior. Don't waste elixirs in the future. Above the golden core realm, the spirit chi of heaven and earth contained in elixirs is not very useful anymore. Only primordial crystal stones are useful. Now that you're in the late stage of the nascent soul realm, it's best if you can use mid-grade primordial crystal stones. But I don't have much of that stuff. I'll give you more than half of it. I'll also give you more than half of the low-grade primordial crystal stones. Also, after arriving at the star-picking sect, you can hide your nascent soul realm for the time being. But you can reveal your golden core realm at the appropriate time. You can strive to obtain the qualifications for the 4th level of the 7 Stars Grotto Heaven. Without any hesitation, Qinhao gave her more than half of his rations, leaving only a small portion. Do you have enough? Helian Wuzi looked at the pieces of primordial crystal stones that contained boundless energy floating out and asked with warmth in her heart. If someone else gave it to her, she would definitely not accept it. But she would not reject Qinhao's. It's enough. When you familiarize yourself with the cultivation world, you'll know that people like me are most likely to meet people who give me wealth. Qinhao said with a slight smile. An hour later, Qinhao put on the 1,000 illusion mask. Harboring a puzzled but very good mood, he left the mountain peak where the 100 Empire-ranking disciples resided with Dongfang Ting. Dongfang Ting returned directly to the inn. And Qinhao asked about the situation of returning to the secular world and walked directly to the Heavenly Armament Pavilion's VIP reception room. There are 4 possibilities for this situation. The first is that she obtained a powerful legacy. But since she said that she didn't, this situation can be ruled out. The second is bloodline awakening. The so-called bloodline awakening requires her to be born with a strong bloodline concentration of some kind of powerful life form. Once awakened, her body's strength will have an astonishing increase. There's a possibility of this, but it's not great. Because I didn't feel any bloodline power. The third is turning into a mortal. Many cultivators, when their cultivation reaches a very high realm and they encounter an unbreakable bottleneck, will reincarnate and be reborn as a human. Although it's very similar to reincarnation, there are some differences. Because they can recover their past memories after passing the mystery of being in the womb. The possibility of this is not great. If it's true, she should have recovered her memories by now. Otherwise, it's impossible for her to improve so quickly. And she doesn't even know what a primal crystal stone is. Obviously, she's not playing dumb with you. In fact, there's no need to play dumb with you. The mysterious existence in Qinhao's mind said as he walked toward the Heavenly Armament Pavilion's VIP reception room. What about the 4th possibility? Qinhao asked. Sorry, I'm updating so late. I can only write 1 chapter today. I've just arrived at my relative's house, so I have no choice. I'll try to make up for it tomorrow. Chapter 268. The 4th possibility, which is also the most likely one, is that she has awakened the power of reincarnation, said the mysterious existence. The power of reincarnation? You mean she isn't? Qinhao's expression changed slightly as he asked. She is still her. All life forms in this world have reincarnation. Unless one's body and soul are destroyed and their soul imprint completely vanishes, when one's life ends, it is the beginning of reincarnation. A few lifetimes, even dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of lifetimes exist. Every reincarnation, because the soul imprint is the same, the strength of the soul does not change much. But every time one reincarnates, the power of reincarnation in the soul imprint will strengthen a little. However, those who can awaken the power of reincarnation are few and far between. Her situation is very suitable for this. Reincarnation, among the 3,000 great Daos, is second only to fate, karma, and wish. It is mysterious and unfathomable. It gathers the essence of the comprehension of the heavenly Tao in every lifetime. Once it is awakened, some heavenly Tao laws and cultivation mantras will appear in the soul from time to time. It is as if the heavens have descended. Even she herself does not know what is going on. Isn't that too powerful? Qinhao was shocked. It is very powerful. But everything has its pros and cons. In 2 years, she was able to advance to the late-stage nascent soul realm in the secular world. At least this means that she has surpassed the nascent soul realm in 1 lifetime. Only when her speed of advancement slows down and she has to rely on her own comprehension will she reach her limit. At that time, she can only rely on herself. And because of the influence of the power of reincarnation, her highest realm may be limited to when the power of reincarnation is exhausted. Instead, it will become her shackles. Fortunately, she has you. You don't have to worry too much. What do you mean? The great reincarnation art. When she is restricted, you can teach her the great reincarnation art. Others may not be able to cultivate it, but it is much easier for those who have awakened the power of reincarnation. The chances of success are very high. Once she cultivates it, she will be able to use her own reincarnation to connect to the great reincarnation Tao. Her achievements will be limitless. It's here. In the imperial palace of the Xuanwu Empire, the emperor, Mu Qing, Zhao Xingqian of the Zhenyuan kingdom, and other important figures who were waiting for the news of the 100 Empire ranking were all excited when they saw the mysterious aura that suddenly flashed from the teleportation array. Without a doubt, the 100 Empire rankings should have ended. However, after a flash of light, everyone's eyes widened. Chen Hao. Qin Jinren. Everyone thought that the Heavenly Armament Pavilion, who was in charge of the 100 Empire ranking, had sent a message. They never thought that the person who would appear in the transmission array would be Chen Hao. Their faces were filled with surprise and joy. In the entire Xuanwu Empire, after Chen Hao stepped into the cultivation world, no one knew better than the people present how strong the aura of the royal bloodline had become. In particular, Chen Hao's bloodline aura had grown at an unbelievable speed in just 2 years. As a result, the entire Xuanwu Empire's providence increased tremendously. Greetings, Jinren Chen. After a brief moment of surprise, the emperor, Mu Qing, Zhao Xingqian, and the others all bowed to Chen Hao without exception. Their expressions were respectful and reverent, with a trace of respect from the bottom of their hearts. Chen Hao's deeds in the cultivation world were already known to the disciples of the cultivation world when they rushed over to prepare for the 100 Empire ranking. Although it wasn't all of it, it was enough to shock them. What kind of providence could such a super genius bring to the empire? No one could imagine. Everyone, no need to be so polite. I'm returning to my family to settle some personal matters. The 100 Empire ranking should end the day after tomorrow. Looking at everyone's expressions, Chen Hao forcibly suppressed the word senior and said, Qin Jinren, is there anything we can help you with? The emperor of the Xuanwu Empire asked hurriedly. Chen Hao shook his head and smiled. I'm just visiting my parents. I only have 1 day, so I won't talk much with you. You don't have to worry about the 100 Empire ranking this time. The champion will definitely be Helian Wuzi. Mo Yue and Dongfang Jun will be in the top 5 if nothing unexpected happens. The other 2 are also outstanding. Hearing Chen Hao's words, everyone was excited. Although they were already sure that the results of this 100 Empire ranking would be very good, they didn't expect it to be so good. Especially Zhao Xingqian of the Zhenyuan kingdom. His old face was a mess of excitement. Chen Hao exchanged a few pleasantries under everyone's enthusiasm and directly left. 4 hours later. Zhenyuan Kingdom, Cloud State City. A handsome figure appeared in the void as fast as lightning. This figure was Chen Hao. Returning to the secular world once is 2 million level 8 spirit pills. Ordinary cultivators really can't afford it, and this is with the help of the Xuanwu Empire's transportation array, Chen Hao said with a sigh. The cultivation world and the secular world didn't only have the restrictions of the heavenly Tao's laws, but also the restrictions of the cultivation world. Once violated, anyone would be punished, and the sect couldn't protect them. Because this was a convention jointly set by the entire cultivation world. Only the 100 Empire ranking, which connected the secular world and the cultivation world, had the privilege to enter the secular world. Just like Xian, Dongfang Ting, and the others back then. Chen Hao was a disciple of the 100 Empire ranking. Being able to use the transportation array of his empire saved him a lot of money. However, even so, ordinary cultivators would not be able to bear the burden of such a thing. Chen Hao had already learned about the Xiao family's recent situation from Dongfang Ting. But at this moment, he was still slightly surprised when he sensed the vigorous aura of the Shao family. Although it couldn't be compared to the cultivation world, this aura actually faintly overshadowed the aura of the Xuanwu Empire's capital. In particular, Qin Hao's bloodline was inextricably linked to the Zhenyuan Kingdom, Cloud State, and the Shao family through the imperial bloodline of the empire. He could clearly sense that the imperial bloodline's aura was countless times denser than before he left, filling the area below the Shao family. This caused the spirit qi of heaven and earth within a radius of tens of thousands of kilometers to automatically gather here. It was like the aura of a king worshipped by thousands of Buddhas and mountains. The imperial bloodline is actually a kind of luck that comes from one's bloodline. Even with my current realm, I can't grasp its mysteries. Qin Hao thought to himself and restrained his aura. He didn't want to cause too much of a stir when he returned to the secular world. And time was pressing. He had to leave after meeting his parents. His most important purpose was to give the nameless old man's memory crystal to his father. I hope you can help me investigate my mother's situation carefully, Qin Hao said in his mind after locking on the location of his parents. Try your best. I'm your magic weapon, restricted by your realm. The only thing I'm better than you is my knowledge. You can only touch things related to life, souls, and soul imprints when you reach the creator realm. So, even if I can sense something now, there's nothing I can do. I understand. But I have to know what I'm doing. Father may not tell me, Qin Hao said. Just as Qin Hao appeared in the sky above Cloud State, his father, who was drinking tea and admiring flowers with his mother in the small courtyard pavilion, frowned slightly and looked up at the void. What's wrong, Ah Hai? Mother noticed Qin Hao's strange behavior and asked. Nothing. I suddenly feel that our Tianxi is coming back, Qin Hai said with a smile. Really? Don't lie to me, Qin Hao's mother asked excitedly. Qin Hao's mother didn't know when it started, but Qin Hai had become a half-immortal in her heart, as if he could predict the future. Every time he said he had a feeling, it would definitely become true. That was why she was so excited after hearing Qin Hai's words. None of her 3 children were by her side now. Qin Yan and Qin Nan had just entered the royal new show hall and could come back to see her often. But what about Qin Hao? Although Qin Hao was not her biological son, she cared about Qin Hao the most. She didn't know what the other world was like. She only knew that it was her son who changed the fate of the family and became a supreme existence, rising to a height that she couldn't understand at all. When the big shots in the whole Zhenyuan Kingdom and even the whole Xuanwu Empire saw her, they had to bow respectfully. But, this was not what she wanted. She only wanted to see her son every day. Wasn't it good to have a happy family? But she could only keep these words in her heart. No matter how much she missed her son, she couldn't say it. Because she was afraid that it would affect her son's future. Well, it should be, Qin Hai said with great certainty. Frowning, he thought to himself, why did Tianxi come back at this time? With his current realm, at best, he has reached the golden elixir realm. He doesn't have the ability to come back. If he goes through the Chamber of Commerce, it will cost a lot of money. Is there something important? Qin Hai felt a faint sense of uneasiness. Ah Mei, what are you doing? At this moment, Qin Hao's mother suddenly stood up. Qin Hai hurriedly stopped her. I'll go to the door to pick up Tianxi, no need. Tianxi will be here in a while. You go and prepare his favorite dishes, Qin Hai said. Dad. Just a moment after Qin Hao's mother was sent away, Qin Hao's figure appeared silently in front of his father and called out in a low voice. In fact, when his mother stood up in surprise, Qin Hao had already arrived above them. But his father's words made him not appear for the time being. Looking at his mother's happy face, who seemed to be a few years younger, and trotted to cook, Qin Hao wished he could appear directly in front of her. But in order to talk to his father about private matters, he had to hold back for the time being. Qin Hai stared at Qin Hao for half a minute and said, the late stage of Golden Elixir Realm, the first heaven of Sword Principle, the phenomenon of wind and cloud. In only 2 years, you can make such progress in a third-grade sect. It's beyond my expectation, Dad. Chen Hao suddenly opened his eyes wide in surprise. At this moment, he didn't want to alarm anyone, so he completely restrained his breath. However, he was still seen through by his father with a single glance. If it was just this, Chen Hao wouldn't be too surprised. However, the first level of the sword Dao that his father spoke of, the phenomenon of wind and clouds, was a term that Chen Hao had never heard of. At my relative's house, it's a mess. I've only written 1 chapter since this morning. I can't calm down at all. Wu Shan will continue to work hard. It's hard to say whether I can make up for it today. I'm really sorry. I'll try my best. Chapter 269. What is the first heaven of sword principle? Chen Hao couldn't help but ask. The first heaven of sword principle is the way for a swordsman to divide the realm of sword essence into 9 heavens. Your sword essence has reached the peak of the first heaven of sword principle. With the same strength, your attack power can be doubled under the effect of sword essence. Every time you break through to the next heaven, your attack power will be doubled. That is to say, your attack power can be doubled now, but when you break through to the second heaven, it will be quadrupled, and when you break through to the third heaven, it will be quadrupled. This is the real strength of a swordsman. The further you go, the more terrifying it will be. As long as your realm of sword principle is high enough, you can kill a practitioner of the same level in seconds, and it is not difficult to challenge someone of a higher level. Of course, this is measured by ordinary practitioners, and a genius disciple with special talent is another matter. You mean, sword essence can also be improved? Yes. In addition to the 9 heavens of sword principle, there are many kinds of sword essences. Destruction sword principle, creation sword principle, slaughter sword principle, dominating sword principle, soft sword principle, proud sword principle, ethereal sword principle, dreamy sword principle, mountain river sword principle, secular sword principle, emotionless sword principle, immortal sword principle. These sword essences can be comprehended by practicing the corresponding sword principle Heart Sutra. Oh. Father, what is the first heaven of sword principle? Chen Hao asked. The first heaven of sword principle is something related to luck, and I can only catch a trace of it. In short, you have already fulfilled some of the requirements. Wherever you are, it will definitely not be calm and peaceful, nor will the winds and clouds converge. A hidden dragon in the abyss will either turn into a dragon or fall. If you can stand out, you will be able to soar to the 9th heaven. I can't give you any advice. Well, you came back at this time because of me, right? Did you meet her, the nameless old man? Chen Hai changed the topic and said. Yes. Father, I'm sorry, I couldn't hide it from her. Chen Hao said, she also knows something about you. Tell me. I was already mentally prepared. I should have known that you wouldn't be able to hide anything from her. I just didn't expect it to be so fast. Chen Hai's brows were tightly knitted, but he still spoke frankly. Chen Hao's expression made him realize that there might be more to the matter than he had expected. She asked me to pass this to you. I don't know what it is either. Chen Hao said in a low voice, hiding it from the treasure-hunting sword's spirit and the mysterious existence. As he spoke, he passed the memory crystal that he had extracted from the nameless old man's soul to his father. Sure enough, as he had expected, his father's expression changed greatly the moment he saw the memory crystal, and his eyes widened in shock. She said that if you don't want to see her, she'll never see you and mother again in this lifetime. But she told me to tell father. Chen Hai's hands were trembling. His brows were tightly knitted. He seemed to be in extreme pain as he held up the memory crystal and said, "Speak." She hopes that father can fulfill his responsibilities as a father. She also has your flesh and blood, what? Chen Hai's eyes widened in shock. He looked at Chen Hao and said, how could she have my child? How could it be? Although she and I are husband and wife, we have never. Chen Hai suddenly realized that the person in front of him was his son, so he quickly shut up. But the expression on his face was obviously full of doubts, puzzlement, and shock. When Chen Hao heard his father's words, he felt a headache coming. If he hadn't seen Qin Shui, he might have other thoughts. But now, not to mention anything else, just Qin Shui's appearance was enough to prove everything. What's more, Qin Shui and her sister Qin Yan had some characteristics of his father. And the bloodline aura contained in the traces of life was exactly the same. Chen Hao was sure of this. After a slight hesitation, Chen Hao looked at his father, who was in deep thought and pain. He couldn't help but say, "Father, I have seen my sister. Her name is Qin Shui. She looks exactly like Yan, and Qin Shui. Shui. How old is she?" 21. 21. She has been pregnant for 162 years. I should have thought of it. Only she would do such a thing. Chen Hai said with a trembling voice. "Father, can you tell me, what's going on? What's the matter with my mother?" Chen Hai looked at Chen Hao, shook his head, and said, "You don't have to worry about these things. The situation is far more complicated than you think. You can't help now. Although I have never asked you, I know that you are a person who doesn't want to be under others. Since you have chosen this path, you must go down it without any distractions and worries. Tell Daddy about the situation after you stepped into the world of cultivation." Chen Hao thought for a moment, and briefly told his experience after entering the cultivation world. Chen Hai listened quietly. With his knowledge, he could naturally feel that Chen Hao was special, but he didn't ask much. How could he not know his own son? Chen Hao's origins had always been a mystery that even he couldn't understand at all. Naturally, Chen Hao also had countless secrets. That's about it. When I go back this time, I will start to gain experience. 1 year later, I want to participate in the intersect competition. Chen Hao said. The intersect competition that is held once every 10 years. Only core disciples were qualified to participate in this competition. That is to say, within a year, you have to reach the nascent soul realm. Hearing Chen Hao's words, Chen Hai frowned slightly and said, "Since you have decided, then work hard. The divine punishment from the elixir realm to the nascent soul realm is fatal for most people, but for you, it can only be regarded as a test at best. If you can accumulate patiently, you will be stronger when you reach the nascent soul realm. However, there is no need to worry about this. If you haven't decided where to go, I suggest you go to the Mirage Desert." The Mirage Desert? Yes. The Mirage Desert is in the middle of the eastern continent, the western continent, and the southern island group. It is a very famous area for gaining experience, and it is very suitable for super geniuses of the elixir realm and the nascent soul realm to gain experience. If you go, you can see the real super geniuses. It is a little dangerous, but without danger, it can't be considered an experience. More importantly, in the Mirage Desert, every 100 years, an ancient ruin would open and appear above the desert like a mirage. This was also the origin of the name of the Mirage Desert. If I remember correctly, it will open in about a month. It's very suitable for you. You can consider it. Alright, that's it. Push me over and have a meal with your mother. She's worried about you the most. The meal lasted for 2 hours. Different from his father, his mother asked about Chen Hao's well-being. She wanted to know everything about Chen Hao in the world of cultivation. Chen Hao didn't think his mother was long-winded at all. As long as his mother asked, he didn't hide anything. He accompanied his mother until the transmission token was about to be activated. Then he said goodbye to his parents and quickly flew to the wilderness. He didn't disturb anyone and left the world of cultivation. Before leaving, Chen Hao gave his father a storage ring and let his father distribute it. How is it? Chen Hao couldn't wait to ask in his mind after being transmitted back to the world of cultivation. I can't see. With my current ability, I don't dare to check your father. But your mother's soul is protected by layers of restrictions. I can't see through it for the time being. I'm afraid you will have to wait until you can fuse with me to the fifth realm to see through it. The mysterious existence said. The fifth realm? Chen Hao murmured and shook his head helplessly. Every time he saw his father, he thought he could get closer, but he found that he was getting farther and farther away. What did the fusion of the fifth realm mean? Golden core, nascent soul, incarnation, nascent soul, creation. Every time he advanced to the next realm, Chen Hao's fusion with the mysterious existence would improve. This meant that Chen Hao had to be at least in the creation realm to complete the fusion of the fifth realm. Moreover, even if he completed the fusion of the fifth realm, it was only a possibility, not a certainty. What kind of existence was his father? The creation realm was a realm that not even the sect leader-level authorities had reached. At least the star-picking sect master's cultivation hadn't reached it. But you don't have to worry about your mother. There won't be any problems within 100 years, that's good. It seems that my father didn't really give up everything like I thought. Or, because I stepped into the cultivation world, he picked it up again. Whatever, as long as nothing happens for the time being. Chen Hao thought to himself. His eyes shone brightly, and he temporarily cut off the reverie in his heart. Food had to be eaten one bite at a time, and roads had to be taken one step at a time. Unrealistic ambition would only affect one's state of mind. Since he couldn't help his parents, he could only put it aside for the time being. Let's get out of here first. I'd like to see what realm I can reach in a year's time. Whoosh! Chen Hao turned into a stream of light and walked directly out of the transmission array used by the Heavenly Armament Pavilion to connect to the secular world. He didn't look at the situation of the 100 Empire rankings. There was no suspense in the results. Whether it was Helian Wuzi, Moue, or Dongfang Jun, there was nothing to worry about. Especially Helian Wuzi. Not to mention the 100 Empire rankings, even if she participated in the Dragon Transformation list, she could win first place. The Mirage Desert is in the south of the Taishan Mountains. It's nearly 10 million miles away from here. It's impossible to fly there. After Chen Hao walked out of the transmission array, he didn't leave the Heavenly Armament Pavilion. A map of the cultivation world of the eastern continent appeared in his mind, and he determined his route. With his father's advice, he didn't have to choose a place to gain experience. Moreover, after Itota's analysis, the Mirage Desert was indeed one of the best places to go. Especially the ancient ruins in the Mirage Desert, which only appeared once every 100 years. It was very rare. The closest city to the Taishan Mountains is Taishan City. Along the way, I have to pass through here. There are hundreds of cities. It will take nearly 2 days to travel by transmission array. Is this the Mirage Desert? Her blue dress fluttered in the air as she stared at the boundless desert and muttered. Write one chapter. I'll update first. I can't guarantee that I'll update in the next few days. When the time comes, I'll settle the accounts. But no matter how many chapters 10, Wushan will make up for it. I hope everyone can understand. At the end of last month, Wushan already said that before the middle of this month, it will be very tragic. I'll return to Kunming on the 10th, go to Nanjing on the 12th to attend the annual meeting of the publishing house, and return to Kunming on the 17th. It's only half a month. After returning, Wushan will go into seclusion and work hard to update. Chapter 270. This beautiful figure was Qin Shui. Looking down from the sky, there were many sand dunes and valleys. There were also some dilapidated ancient ruins and ancient cities that emitted a dazzling golden light under the sun. So. Qin Shui sensed that there were at least 100 cultivators with powerful auras within 1,000 miles. This is the outer area of the Mirage Desert. If we continue to approach the core, we will reach the protective barrier formed by the sandstorm. If you can enter, then follow me. If you can't, then leave quickly. Don't stay here for too long in case you are killed by other cultivators. Senior Wang, is it really that serious? Our Spirit Serpent Valley is a rank 9 sect. Don't think that a rank 9 sect can do anything. Not to mention our Spirit Serpent Valley, even the disciples of the Yuan Gate would be killed here. The Mirage Desert gathers cultivators from the eastern and western continents and the southern sea islands. Those who dare to come here are all geniuses among geniuses. There are countless disciples from powerful sects and super geniuses from the Demon Dao and the Demon Dao. Even I have to be careful. Oh. Senior Wang, is it really that difficult to enter? Very difficult. The Mirage Desert is also known as the City in the Sky. It only opens once every 100 years. According to the records of the sect, only Golden Core Realm and Nascent Soul Realm cultivators under the age of 30 can enter. Those with a low cultivation base, high cultivation base, or over the age limit will not be able to enter. Then we are all within the criteria, the basic criteria are met, but you have to pass the City in the Mirage Desert test. Only those who are ranked above 1,000 will be able to enter. Relatively speaking, Golden Core Realm cultivators like you have less chances than Nascent Soul Realm cultivators. But the Mirage Desert test does not depend on one's cultivation level. The most important thing is potential. You will know when you participate in the test. Let's go, there are still 10 days. I think many people have already arrived. Ruachan, you will see the super geniuses of the Western continent and the Southern Sea Islands in this trial. Don't limit your vision to Chu Qing Tian of the Yuan Gate and Gu Xing of the Sky Sword sect. The competition between the sects will end 1 year later. Now, you are representing the top geniuses of the Eastern continent. You are on the same side. Competition is fine, but we can't kill each other. Originally, if Xia Yuyu had not advanced to the Incarnation Realm, the 4 of you should have been able to obtain a decent harvest. Unfortunately, she had lost the right. It's up to the 3 of you now. This time, the Yuan Gate's Chu Qing Tian is in charge. You don't have to be so calculative. It isn't that he's stronger than you, and it's just that the Origin Gate is stronger. During the Mirage Realm test, try your best to aim for the highest ranking. Don't hide your strength. This is related to the fate of the Eastern continent and your own. It would be even better if he could defeat Chu Qing Tian and Gu Xing in terms of ranking. Furthermore, the higher your ranking, the more opportunities you will encounter in the area you enter. Don't worry, I will do my best. Whether it's Chu Qing Tian or Gu Xing, they can forget about beating me. Dozens of disciples of the Heavenly Sword sect were flying in the Mirage Land Desert, and a late-stage nascent soul realm youth said to Wu Ruachan. Although his combat strength was no longer comparable to Wu Ruachan's, his age and experience made him the leader of the Sky Sword sect to participate in the Mirage Desert. 3 days later, when Qin Hao appeared in the Mirage Desert, he saw thousands of Golden Core Stage and Nascent Soul Stage disciples gathered together outside a sandstorm barrier that blotted out the sky. These disciples were all super geniuses of the Eastern continent. Although his father didn't tell Qin Hao about the Mirage Desert, there were very detailed records of it in the sect's information. The Mirage Desert was a city in the sky that opened once every 100 years. It was definitely a competition between the super geniuses of the Eastern and Western continents and the Southern Sea Islands. What could one obtain in the city? Life or death? It depended on each person's fate, but the competition would start before entering the city in the sky. That was the ranking pagoda. It was a competition between one's own fate and the fate of the continent they belonged to. However, including the 6th grade sects, very few people from the low-grade sects participated. It wasn't that they couldn't or didn't want to, but it was useless even if they went. They wouldn't be able to enter the top 1,000. These low-grade sects would only remind their disciples to go if they were truly super geniuses. There are so many people. Qin Hao stared at the thousands of young disciples and was slightly shocked. Whether it was the Golden Core Realm or the Nascent Soul Realm, their auras were extremely powerful. They were definitely super geniuses in the same realm. Only a small part of them were rogue cultivators. Most of them were disciples of the sects sitting together. Most of them were super geniuses of the 7th grade sects and above. Chen Hao didn't completely conceal his aura and landed at the back of the crowd. A disciple of the star-picking sect. That's funny. A 3rd grade sect with a late-stage Golden Core Realm disciple dares to come to the Mirage Desert. Before Chen Hao appeared, he had changed into the star-picking robe that symbolized his identity as a disciple of the star-picking sect. The reason for this was very simple. He was a member of the star-picking sect and also a member of the Eastern continent. If he wanted to win providence for himself, he could only be himself openly. Don't underestimate him. He should be Chen Hao, who has been the talk of the town recently. Chen Hao. The Chen Hao who killed Fan Feng and saved Duan Yufei and Xia Lanlan from the Red Flame Beast. He must be. Otherwise, who would dare to come to the star-picking sect? As the people around discussed, everyone's attention was focused on them. The nascent soul realm experts who didn't take Chen Hao seriously looked over and used their minds to check him out. Fan Feng, who was half a step away from the nascent soul realm, was quite famous in the cultivation world. Whether it was talent or combat strength, he was comparable to the super geniuses of the 8th grade sections. He was not much inferior to the super geniuses of the 9th grade sections. Chen Hao was able to kill him when he was only at the late-stage Golden Core realm. The commotion he caused was huge, especially when the Ling Tian sect came out to protect him. He's here too. Chen Shui saw Chen Hao immediately. She was sitting cross-legged at the back of the crowd alone. Her aura was cold, her graceful figure, and her beautiful face hidden under the black veil was exceptionally eye-catching. However, some people who came forward to invite her to join their team were coldly rejected by Chen Shui. Even the experts at the peak of the late-stage nascent soul realm were no exception. If it was any other time or place, someone would have flipped out. However, no one dared to cause trouble at this time. At least before entering the Sky City, no one dared to cause trouble. This was because every force represented the Eastern continent's honor. Those who could come here naturally knew the rules. Brother Chen, how have you been? Whoosh! Not long after Chen Hao sat down, 2 streaks of light flashed and flew in front of him. Duan Yufei cupped his fists and said with a smile on his face. Xia Lanlan glared at Chen Hao. Her gaze was not friendly, but there was no hostility. Chen Hao smiled and stood up to return the greeting. I'm fine. Thank you for the help of Brother Duan's sect. Hearing Chen Hao's words, Duan Yufei smiled and shook his head. This has nothing to do with me. Brother Chen understands. Unfortunately, she won't be coming this time. Duan Yufei seemed to be implying something. So what if she comes? Some people are as timid as mice and don't even dare to recognize her. Humph. Xia Lanlan glared at Chen Hao. Obviously, she already knew about Chen Hao and Xia Yuyu's meeting. She was very dissatisfied that Chen Hao didn't even have the courage to recognize her face to face. She was outspoken and her considerations were very simple. She didn't think about the interests of the sect and other big issues. In her opinion, since Yuyu was so good to Chen Hao should disregard everything and throw away everything. This was out of Chen Hao's expectations. He didn't expect Xia Yuyu and Xia Lanlan to have such a good relationship. Hearing Xia Lanlan's words, Duan Yufei pulled Xia Lanlan and stared at Chen Hao. Brother Chen, don't mind her. Lanlan is her best sister, and no one knows her better than her. Let's not talk about this. Brother Chen, this is our Ling Tian sect's communication talisman. After you enter, if you encounter a dangerous place that you're not confident in, you can inform me and we'll explore together. It's very difficult to obtain the greatest benefits by yourself. Alright, Chen Hao slightly hesitated, but he still took the communication talisman from Duan Yufei's hand and replied. After Duan Yufei and Xia Lanlan left, Chen Shui suddenly stood up under the attention of many obscure gazes. Her figure flashed and arrived before Chen Hao. She glanced at Chen Hao through the black veil and sat beside Chen Hao. The distance between them was only a foot, and they were practically shoulder to shoulder. This kind of rejoicing instantly made Chen Hao, who was already one of the focal points, attract even more attention and cause a flurry of discussion. You broke through to the nascent soul stage so quickly. Chen Hao turned his head and asked with a slightly surprised voice transmission. I've already reached the peak of the advanced stage of the golden core stage. What's there to be surprised about? Have you gone back? Chen Shui asked with a seemingly indifferent voice transmission. Yes. The matter is far more complicated than you and I imagined. I hope that you don't blame Father, at least before you know the truth. Father didn't even know of your existence. Even what? Father originally thought that he and your mother had never done the deed of husband and wife. How is that possible? Chen Shui was slightly surprised. I also thought that it was impossible. But when Father heard me mention you, he said it himself in shock. We don't know the specific situation. Father didn't tell me and didn't let me get involved. I can understand your feelings, but please trust my intuition. There's definitely an extremely great secret between Father, your mother, and my mother. I believe that Father can handle it well. What we have to do is just wait. Chen Hao said. Wait. Mother has waited for over 100 years. How long do we have to wait? Wait until her lifespan is exhausted. Your mother has at least 200 years of lifespan, right? What about my mother? Only 100 years. Do you know what happened between them? How much do you know? Your mother has bitterly searched for over 100 years. My mother, at least from as long as I can remember, has never eaten a full meal. Father is a cripple. What's laughable is that because of me, he was beaten into a cripple by a bully in a small town who can't even be considered a cultivator. I simply can't understand all of this. I also can't understand. You also can't understand. Hiss. Just as Chen Hao and Chen Shui were arguing with each other through voice transmission, a powerful aura suddenly came from the horizon and interrupted the two's conversation. Today is the last chapter. Blushing with shame, there's really no other way. When I return to Kunming, I'll start to repay the debt. No matter how much I owe, I'll repay it. I'll cover my face and escape, to be continued. If you like this work, I welcome you to come to Qidian. Chapter 271. Yuan Gates Chu Qing Tian. Sky Sword Sects Gu Xing. Too powerful. Just this aura alone is enough to make me unable to resist. The four top geniuses are too powerful, of course. Chu Qing Tian, Wu Ruochen, and Gu Xing are the three most monstrous geniuses of the top 10 sections. Although Xia Yuyu has surpassed them, it is only in terms of cultivation level. If nothing goes wrong, they will definitely trigger heaven's punishment and step into the incarnation realm. With their accumulation, they will not be in any danger after passing the heaven's punishment. I just don't know who will rank higher in this test. It will definitely be Chu Qing Tian. A month ago, Chu Qing Tian killed a peak early incarnation realm demonic cultivator. His combat power is unfathomable. It is said that he will be the commander of the Eastern Continent for this trial in the Sky City. Senior brother, what does this commander mean? When I saw the information, I was very confused. Are we going to be restricted when we enter? This is a precious place for training. It is definitely impossible to restrict them completely. The main goal is to unite against the outside world. I also heard from the Great Elder that the Sky City opens once every 100 years. In fact, it is a clash between the geniuses of the Eastern Continent, Western Continent, and Southern Sea Islands. Other than our sect disciples, there are also many rogue cultivators and demonic cultivators. The competition is very intense, not only within the Eastern Continent, but also with the Western Continent and Southern Sea Islands. Therefore, in the past few hundred years, it has become a tradition. Every time the Sky City opens, the top 10 rank 9 sects of the Eastern continent will choose the strongest commander in advance. Once a group conflict occurs, we must unite against the outside world. Wu Ruochen, you are early. We agreed that the three of us will meet up, but you came alone. It seems that you are not convinced by me as the commander. Chu Qingtian and Gu Xing obviously came together. While they were still in the void, their eyes swept across the thousands of cultivators and locked onto Wu Ruochen in the crowd. His voice was not loud, but it was filled with a natural arrogance. It floated clearly into everyone's ears, and it was full of hostility. Convinced by you? Ridiculous. You are just the commander appointed by the top 10 sections. Everything depends on your strength. What right do you have to convince me? When the Sky City appears, I will defeat you in the Pagoda Tablet ranking. During the intersect competition, I will completely defeat you. Ha, you are overestimating yourself. I, Chu Qingtian, will let you know that I am worthy of my title as a commander. During the intersect competition, I will convince you even more. We'll see. Wu Ruochen said proudly. Disdain flickered in Chu Qingtian's eyes. He no longer paid attention to Wu Ruochen and swept his gaze across the crowd. A powerful pressure was released as he said, I'm Chu Qingtian from the Yuan Gate. I believe that most people here should know who I am. I won't waste any more words. This time, I, Chu Qingtian, am indebted to the Immortal Alliance for thinking highly of me and being appointed as the commander. Naturally, I have to consider the honor of the Eastern continent. No matter who obtained the qualifications to enter, they would have to unite against the outside world. Once a large-scale conflict breaks out, I hope you won't shrink back. That will only weaken our strength. When Sky City appears and the qualified disciples are confirmed, they can come to me to receive a communication talisman. If you encounter a valuable treasure that you can't get your hands on, you can contact me. I'll choose to inform others to help you. I, Chu Qingtian, will make sure that you're satisfied with the distribution of benefits. Especially Golden Core disciples. Obtaining the right to enter only proves that you have great potential, not that you are strong. To put it bluntly, you will only be trampled upon if you go in. Don't lose your life for profit. Did you hear that? Qin Shui sent a voice transmission to Qin Hao. I have more or less entered the nascent soul realm. Your late-stage Golden Core realm is too low. There are 500 to 600 peak-stage nascent soul realm cultivators here. There are 3,000 above the nascent soul realm. The rest are basically at the peak of the late-stage Golden Core realm and half-step nascent soul realm. After you go in, you have to be careful. You won't be a match for any late-stage nascent soul realm cultivator. Don't lose your life for treasures. My goal is to gain experience. As long as I don't snatch treasures, it won't be a big problem. As for you, even if you don't snatch treasures, I'm afraid you will be in a lot of trouble. Qin Hao looked at Qin Shui and said. Qin Hao knew that although those with great potential could enter the Mirage Desert, the most suitable ones were those at the peak of the late-stage nascent soul realm. After all, they would enter the same space. Even if a Golden Core realm cultivator ranked high in the test and could enter, they would only be trampled upon by those nascent soul realm cultivators. No matter how strong Qin Hao was, he couldn't change this fact. The only thing he could do was to keep a low profile and not fight for treasures. This was also the reason why there were more nascent soul realm cultivators than Golden Core realm cultivators. Furthermore, the Golden Core realm cultivators who came here basically came with the core disciples of the sect. I don't want anyone to see me. Even Chu Qingtian and the rest can forget about seeing me. Alright, let's cultivate and adjust ourselves to the best state. The city in the sky should appear soon. Don't hide during the test. Although the ranking isn't a symbol of one's strength, it is a symbol of one's luck. The higher the ranking, the better the region you will be transported to. Even if you just cultivate there, you will gain a lot. Qin Shui said. Hiss. On the second day, at sunset, the sandstorm seal hundreds of miles away suddenly shone with a resplendent seven-colored light. An ancient and mysterious aura instantly spread out and woke up the cultivators who were sitting cross-legged. The seal is about to disappear. Phew. I must go in. Even if I don't gain anything, as long as I can enter, it will be an honor. It's time for the test. Although I am at the late-stage golden core realm, this is a test of my potential. I will definitely not be weaker than them. The disciples who did not have absolute confidence in entering gritted their teeth. Even the rank 9 sects did not have such a mysterious test to test one's potential. They could only judge a disciple's potential subjectively and could not measure it specifically. However, the City in the Skies test could. There were close to 10,000 cultivators present. Basically, they were all super geniuses from rank 8 sects and above. There were very few lone cultivators like Qin Shui. Those from rank 3 sects like Qin Hao were even rarer. Even if they were ranked 1000, it would definitely be an honor. There were a total of 3 entrances to the City in the Sky. The eastern mainland, the western mainland, and the South Sea Islands each had one. The number of cultivators gathered at the other 2 entrances was no less than that of the eastern mainland. It was equivalent to 1 in 10. Boom! After the 7-colored light lasted for half a minute, the terrifying sandstorm seal finally exploded and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Then, a mirage-like golden city appeared before everyone's eyes from afar. It emitted a grand, vast, and ancient aura. It was like the legendary heavenly palace, causing everyone to reveal excited expressions. At the same time, 307-colored light pillars instantly pierced through the void and split into 3 directions. There were 100 pillars in each direction and they poured down from the city in the sky. 100 identical blue towers appeared 100 miles away from Qin Hao and the rest. Each tower had 10 floors and exuded a mysterious aura. There were thunderous electric currents surrounding it that made crackling sounds from time to time. There was a huge silver tower tablet standing above the 100 palaces. Hiss 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 hiss, just when everyone was still immersed in shock, the 100 testing towers suddenly released a mysterious light curtain that covered a radius of hundreds of miles and all the cultivators were within it. 100 figures involuntarily rose into the sky and flew to the front of the 10 testing towers. The test had officially begun. Azure Valley Disciple, Mu Tenghai. Heaven-piercing sect disciple, Yang Yen. Ling Tian sect disciple, Duan Yufei. Sectless cultivator, Bai Liyan. As the 100 disciples reported their identities one by one, 100 silver lights flashed from the silver tower steel and entered the glabella of the 100 disciples. One by one, they took a deep breath and stepped into the testing tower with an excited and solemn expression to begin the test. How long will this test take? 100 people at a time and 10,000 people in total. I'm afraid it won't end in a few days. Qin Hao looked at Qin Shui and said. Didn't you know the details before you came? No. I only read about it in the sex information. I don't know the details, Qin Hao said. 100 people will be tested each time. The test time varies. Those with poor potential will be eliminated in 2 to 3 minutes while those with high potential will be eliminated for a longer time. However, it won't be more than 10 minutes. This is because the testing tower has a 1-minute time limit for each floor. According to past experience, those who can reach the 7th floor have the hope of obtaining the qualification to enter. The 8th floor is basically a piece of cake. Those who can reach the 10th floor and come out from the top of the tower are definitely true geniuses. There are basically a few people from the Eastern Continent, Western Continent, and Southern Sea Archipelago who can do it every time. However, the total number is not more than 20. Qin Shui said. After a slight pause, she continued, this testing tower tests one's temperament, will, comprehension, combat talent, and physical talent. There are 5 aspects. Therefore, it places more emphasis on potential rather than strength. Otherwise, with so many people at the peak of the mastery nascent soul stage, we won't be qualified at all. Someone's coming out. After Qin Shui and Qin Hao spoke for a while, a cultivator was ejected from the second floor's exit. It was obvious that he did not even have the potential to step into the third floor. Ha! Zhao Qinfeng, with your potential, you should just kill yourself. You can't even reach the third floor and you still have the nerve to come out and embarrass yourself, humph. Talk to me when you can reach the third floor. I'm at least at the second floor and I'll pass in the last breath. It's good enough that you can reach the second floor. Fuck. If my ranking is higher than yours, will you kneel down and apologize to me? Sure. If your ranking is lower than mine, kneel down and kowtow to me 3 times. The ejected Zhao Qinfeng was a rogue cultivator at the peak of the late stage of the nascent soul realm. His strength was definitely strong. However, even he did not expect that he would be so embarrassing. What was even more embarrassing was that his sworn enemy actually looked down on him in public. This made him extremely embarrassed and angry. Soon, more disciples were ejected. In less than 6 minutes, at least 80 people were ejected from the 5th floor. Of the remaining 20 people, more than 10 were ejected from the 7th floor. When they reached the 8th floor, only 4 people were left. Duan Yufei was one of them. Including today, I owe 9 chapters. I'm really sorry. It will probably return to normal around the 17th. At that time, Wu Shan will try his best to repay the debt. For the next few days, please bear with it. I suggest that you don't wait for the next chapter and rest for the time being. Wu Shan is also a reader and understands how painful this kind of update is. But there's really no other way. I'm extremely sorry. Chapter 272. 10th level. Amazing. Too amazing. As expected of a super genius from a grade 9 sect. How can Duan Yufei be so amazing? He was only ranked 9th among the inner court disciples in the Ling Tian sect. Now that he has just stepped into the nascent soul stage, could it be that he can still ascend to the top of the tower? In less than 9 minutes, the other 3 disciples were ejected one after another, while Duan Yufei stepped into the 10th level amidst the crowd's shocked voices. As a super genius ranked 9th among the inner court disciples of the grade 9 sect, Ling Tian sect, Duan Yufei's reputation in the eastern continent's cultivation world was not as famous as Chu Qingtian, Wu Ruochen, Gu Xing, and Xia Yuyu who were in the first column, but he was still one of the top in the second column. Even if the close to 10,000 disciples present did not know who he was, they all knew his name. However, according to the previous evaluations, Duan Yufei could at most reach the 9th level. However, he had actually stepped into the 10th level now. This kind of potential was absolutely shocking. In the crowd, Xia Lanlan's expression was obviously unusually excited. Her beautiful face was flushed with excitement, and she seemed to be even more excited than herself ascending to the 10th level. She clenched her fists tightly and prayed for Duan Yufei. However, it only lasted for 5 seconds before a ray of light appeared, and Duan Yufei was ejected from the 10th level amidst the crowd's exclamations. Hiss. At the same time, the Silver Tower monument shone with a dazzling light, and the ranking of the first batch of 100 disciples appeared before everyone's eyes. Duan Yufei, who had broken his wings on the 10th level, was at the top of the list. The 10th level is actually so amazing, no wonder there are only a few who can pass every time. The instant Duan Yufei was ejected, although his essence, energy, and spirit were completely replenished by the miraculous energy, he was covered in cold sweat. He clenched his teeth and relied on his extraordinary talent to successfully pass the 9th level, giving him incomparable confidence. Originally, he thought that according to the increasing pressure of each level, he would have a 50% chance of successfully ascending to the top of the 10th level. However, what he did not expect was that the strength of the 10th level completely exceeded his imagination. He did not persist for 5 seconds and was instantly killed, without any results. Subsequently, another 100 people entered the testing tower at the same time. No one knew which batch they were in. There was no pattern to the selection of the testing tower. The location and stage were uncertain, so they could only wait patiently. All of them knew that they might be the next one, but they couldn't calm down and adjust their breathing. Their minds were stretched taut as they paid attention to the disciples entering the pagoda monument. The disciples who failed on the 7th floor were the most nervous. According to their experience, at least half of the disciples who failed on the 7th floor would not be able to enter the top 1,000. Moreover, it wasn't based on the length of time one could last on the 7th floor, but rather the results obtained. If no one else said anything, they could only wait for the ranking on the pagoda stele. On the first level, you'll meet an opponent who's as strong as you. The pressure, aura, and combat power were extremely similar to his own. The only thing missing was flexibility. On the second level, there would be two. Furthermore, the two of them work together seamlessly. Their battle prowess is at least 3 times that of yours. You have to find their weakness in the shortest amount of time and destroy it. Without sufficient combat talent and experience, it was impossible to achieve such a feat. The 3rd floor becomes 4, the 4th floor becomes 8, and so on. When you reach the 10th floor, you will have 502 opponents. Chen Shui said. It can't be. 502 opponents with the same strength as him. And it's perfectly coordinated? Chen Hao said in surprise, how is this possible? If there wasn't a time limit, there would still be hope. But with only 1 minute, how can he kill them all? It's not for you to kill them, it's for you to break through. When you enter, you will naturally know what to do. If you can only pass by killing all of them, not to mention the 10th floor, even the 2nd and 3rd floor, there aren't many who can complete it in 1 minute. What we need to do is to break through the opponent's blockade and walk to the entrance of the next floor. Then, we will have successfully passed the floor. Other than facing opponents with the same strength as us, the closer we are to the entrance of the next floor, the greater the pressure we will have to endure and the stronger the mental attack will be. Therefore, it's not enough to have a high comprehension ability and a strong innate talent. Without sufficient temperament and willpower, it's also difficult to pass. You don't have to worry too much. The two of us definitely won't have a problem getting the qualifications. It's just a matter of what ranking we can get. Gu Xing is going. Just as Chen Shui and Chen Hao were watching and talking, the 5th batch of disciples who entered became the focus of everyone's attention. The super genius of the floating mist sect, Gu Xing. With his talent and potential, it shouldn't be a problem for him to reach the top. Chen Shui said softly, in the history of the Eastern continent, the average number of people who reach the top is around 5. As one of the most dazzling geniuses of the Eastern continent, he, Chu Qingtian, and Wu Ruochen will definitely reach the top. It's just a matter of whose results are better. They've all reached the top. How do we differentiate the results? According to the time they reached the top and their performance? Chen Hao asked. After watching a few matches, Chen Hao had already discovered that although the time difference between all the disciples passing through each level was very small, there was still a slight difference. For example, Duan Yufei had reached the 10th level when there was still more than 10 seconds and 9 minutes left. Furthermore, he had entered the 9th floor a few seconds earlier than the other 3 disciples who had entered the 9th floor. Yes. The most basic measurement is the number of floors. Within the same level, the results obtained were based on one's performance within the level. The time isn't accurate. However, if it's reaching the top, the faster the time, the better the performance, Chen Shui said. What a fast speed. That's amazing. This Gu Xing has always kept a low profile. I heard that other than the people from his sect, nobody has ever heard him speak. He basically doesn't interact with others, let alone get into a conflict. If he wasn't ranked first in his sect, I'm afraid the Eastern continent wouldn't even know how powerful he is. However, this strength. That's amazing. He's already at the 6th floor. In less than 4 minutes, he's already surpassed the others by 2 floors. This speed is a few times faster than Duan Yufei from the Ling Tian sect. Such speed means that he's very relaxed. he definitely has no problem reaching the top. Who knows, he might even be ranked first in the Eastern continent. When Gu Xing took the lead and made the testing tower shine all the way up, close to 10,000 cultivators' eyes were attracted to him. All of them were shocked. Even Chu Qingtian and Wu Ruoqin's eyes shone with a fierce and powerful battle intent. In their eyes, there was no doubt that the low-profile and quiet Gu Xing was their opponent. The test in the Sky City this time was a confrontation before the intersect competition. Although it was not the final battle, for geniuses like them, they would never allow themselves to fail at any time, any place, or anything. He's reached the top. As the crowd exclaimed in shock, Gu Xing, whose expression did not change at all, appeared proudly at the top of the testing tower. He stepped on a 7-colored waterfall that was different from the silver light that was ejected and returned to the crowd under the admiration and envy of the crowd. The silver tower tablet shone with a dazzling light. Gu Xing's name replaced Duan Yufei and rose to the top. Moreover, unlike the other names, his name was 7-colored. Only the name that reached the top would be 7-colored. Amazing. 7 minutes. This Gu Xing only used 7 minutes to reach the top. This result can be ranked in the top 30 among the genius disciples in the past. Countless shocked voices erupted from the crowd. 7 minutes. Chu Qingtian will definitely surpass this number. Chu Qingtian stared at Gu Xing, who came with him, and said confidently in his heart. Although Gu Xing did not directly express his unwillingness to accept him as the commander like Wu Ruoqin, the cold Gu Xing did not say a word along the way. Chu Qingtian knew in his heart whether he was convinced or not. Wu Ruoqin also felt the pressure, but this pressure made his battle intent even higher. On average, it took about 6 minutes for each batch. After 20 batches, Gu Xing's name was still not surpassed by anyone. Some of the super geniuses of the 9th rank sects had reached the 10th level. There was also a genius from the 8th rank sect who reached the 10th level. However, he did not pass, but his result was better than Duan Yufei's. Duan Yufei slipped from 1st place to 7th place. There were a few who reached the 10th level, but like Duan Yufei, they were ejected instantly. Their ranking was still lower than Duan Yufei's. Overall, with Duan Yufei's reputation, this result was quite good. Many of the 9th rank sects who were more famous than him had been defeated by him. Xia Lanlan also completed the test and ended at the 9th level. Her ranking was at the top of all the people who had broken their wings at the 9th level. She was second only to the dozen people who had reached the 10th level and above. The 26th batch. Rogue Cultivator, Chen Shui. Chen Shui, who was chatting with Chen Hao, was brought to a testing tower by a beam of light. She quickly gathered her thoughts and reported her name. Chen Shui. Her name is Chen Shui. What a beautiful girl. How come I have never heard of such a person before? She's just a rogue cultivator. What's there to be proud of? She didn't even give me face when I invited her. I want to see how many levels she can reach. The moment Chen Shui appeared, she, who was wearing a blue dress and had a graceful figure, attracted the attention of countless people. Even though she was wearing a veil, it could not hide her beautiful face. It had to be said that a real beauty would be the center of attention no matter where she went. Regardless of strength or status. There was a huge difference between this and a man. A man, no matter how handsome he was, if he did not have the strength and status to match it, he would at most be called a pretty boy or an embroidered pillow. Not many people would really pay attention to him. But a woman was different. Even if she was useless, as long as she was beautiful, she could cause disputes. The power of a femme fatale was absolutely terrifying. How many levels can she reach? The 10th level or the top? When Chen Shui stepped into the 1st level, Chen Hao's deep black eyes shone with a bright light. He thought to himself with some anticipation. Although they were not related by blood, Chen Shui was still his elder sister. Moreover, Chen Hao also knew that as the disciple of the nameless old man, Chen Shui was an anomaly who was only born after being pregnant for more than 100 years. Her talent was definitely not as simple as it seemed. Even Chen Hao was not sure if he was stronger than her. It was impossible not to look forward to it. Chapter 273. Chen Shui is not simple. Duan Yufei could not help but exclaim. It had not even been 5 minutes since Chen Shui stepped into the testing tower. However, what shocked everyone was that the 6th floor of the testing tower lit up first. Although the final result was not out yet, her speed was not much inferior to Gu Xing's. What's not simple about it? So what if she reached the top? No matter how powerful she is, she can't beat Yu. No matter what. Xia Lanlan stared at Chen Shui's testing tower and said with hostility. Duan Yufei smiled and did not say anything else. He agreed with Xia Lanlan, but he was sure that even if Chen Shui was not as powerful as Xia Yu, the difference was limited. Otherwise, she would not have advanced so quickly. The last time he saw Chen Shui, she was only at the peak of the advanced stage of the Golden Core realm. Furthermore, her cultivation was unstable and far from the half-step nascent soul realm. However, she was now at the initial stage of the nascent soul realm. How long had it been? No one dared to trigger the heavenly punishment casually. Even the super geniuses of the rank 9 sects did not dare to be careless. Only when one's mental state was perfect and had great confidence would they dare to trigger the heavenly punishment. However, Chen Shui did it so quickly, Duan Yufei did not know if her foundation was stable or not. However, being able to trigger the heavenly punishment in such a short time and successfully pass it was definitely not something an ordinary person could do. 8 minutes. Chen Shui became the second disciple to successfully reach the top. Furthermore, she only used 8 minutes and was second only to Gu Xing. With such potential, Chen Shui had truly become the focus of everyone's attention. Even some of the super geniuses of the rank 9 sects looked at Chen Shui with astonishment. Many people thought of Chen Shui's identity as a rogue cultivator. Listen up, Chen Shui is only in her early 20s and has already reached the nascent soul realm. Furthermore, she has such potential. Even in our Yuan Gate, she is considered a top genius. After stepping into the city in the sky, if you meet her, invite her to join our Yuan Gate. Let her enjoy the treatment of a core disciple and tell her that I said so. Do you understand? Yes, senior brother. The dozens of Yuan Gate disciples replied at the same time when they heard Chu Qingtian's message. Senior brother, what if she doesn't agree? Before you came, I invited her to form a team but was rejected. Do I need to say that? Although his potential is high, he is only at the early nascent soul stage. After you come out, leave her to me. Remember, just capture her. Don't touch her. Chu Qingtian's lips curled up slightly, and an evil glint flashed in his eyes. Yes, everyone was slightly taken aback and hurriedly responded. They knew what kind of person Chu Qingtian was. They didn't dare to be dissatisfied with Chu Qingtian's overbearingness. Even the disciples who had thoughts about Chen Shui could only put away these thoughts. Chu Qingtian was the future sect master of the Yuan Gate. Who would dare to offend him? Very good, very good. A rogue cultivator at the early nascent soul stage. With such potential and such beauty, she is simply a perfect Taoist companion for me. While Chen Hao was briefing the Yuan Gate disciples, the floating mist sect's half-step incarnation stage super genius, Gu He, stared at Chen Shui, who had drifted to Chen Hao's side, with bright eyes as he thought to himself. Soon, he sent a message to all the disciples of the floating mist sect other than Gu Xing. There were many similar situations like Yuan Gate and floating mist sect. Chen Shui would never have thought that her shocking performance would directly push her to the heart of the struggle. Of course, even if she knew, she would still do it and wouldn't care at all. The test continued. The rankings on the Silver Pagoda Monument were constantly changing. What shocked everyone was that the number of disciples who managed to reach the top of the pagoda monument this time had far exceeded the previous times. When the number of disciples reached 6,000, another 8 disciples had reached the top. Out of these 8 people, 6 of them were from the top 10 grade 9 sects, including Gu He. 2 of them were super geniuses from grade 8 sects. However, Gu Xing and Chen Shui's first and second positions were still unshakable. This situation continued until Wu Ruochen from the Sky Sword sect appeared. However, he only surpassed Chen Shui by a small margin and still couldn't shake Gu Xing's position. This made Wu Ruochen's expression very ugly. When the 70th round began, it was finally Chu Qingtian's turn. It's finally my turn. Ha! When the light beam locked onto Chu Qingtian said proudly. His sharp gaze was filled with disdain as he looked at Wu Ruochen. Finally, his gaze landed on Gu Xing provocatively. The first place can only belong to me, Chu Qingtian. It will still be the first place during the intersect competition. Chu Qingtian's arrogant voice resounded throughout the area. With a whoosh, he stepped into the testing tower. I have cultivated the heavenly domination technique to the greater completion realm. Who can stop me? The first place will definitely be mine. So what if it takes 7 minutes? Chu Qingtian took a deep breath and thought to himself as he stepped into the testing tower. So fast. Impressive. As expected of Chu Qingtian. I'm afraid Gu Xing won't be able to keep his first place. In just 3 minutes, close to 10,000 disciples widened their eyes in shock. Although many people were unhappy with Chu Qingtian's arrogance, they couldn't help but admire Chu Qingtian's strength. Just like the Yuan sect's dominance, Chu Qingtian passed through the levels with irresistible force. In just 3 minutes, he reached the 5th level. In 3.5 minutes, he reached the 6th level. This speed was more than 10 seconds faster than Gu Xing, impossible. How can Chu Qingtian be so fast? Wu Ruochen clenched his fists tightly and gritted his teeth. Although the results weren't out yet, Chu Qingtian would definitely be the first. He could tolerate losing to Gu Xing. However, he couldn't tolerate losing to Chu Qingtian. The reason was simple. It was because of Xia Yuyu. His and Chu Qingtian's sects had already expressed their intentions to the Ling Tian sect by marriage. Although Xia Lingfeng had temporarily rejected the marriage because of Xia Yuyu's cultivation, they both knew that they were each other's biggest competitors. Could it be that his heavenly domination technique has been cultivated to the greater completion realm? Gu Xing and Wu Ruochen thought to themselves at the same time. The heavenly domination technique was the Yuan sect's ultimate earth rank unique technique. Only disciples who were qualified to become the next sect leader could cultivate it. Any disciple who cultivated this technique would possess an aura of supremacy. When it was cultivated to the greater completion realm, its power would be even more terrifying. It was the most powerful unique technique that could be cultivated before the primordial soul stage. Amazing. I'm afraid Chu Qingtian will reach the top in about 6 minutes. Chen Shui looked at Chen Hao and said softly, my mother said that there would be countless super geniuses in the world when the great era arrives. It's true. The number of people who reached the top this year and the time it took to reach the top has far surpassed the previous years. I'm afraid Chu Qingtian will break the previous records. This is just the eastern mainland. The western mainland and the southern sea islands might be even stronger than us. Even if I reach the peak of the advanced nascent soul stage, I'll only gain battle experience. At most, I'll be able to reach Gu Xing's level. Unless I can raise my carving mental cultivation method to the 4th stage, why? Are you confident that you can surpass him? Chen Shui couldn't help but ask when she saw Chen Hao's expression. I'll know after I try, Chen Hao said noncommittally. However, the confidence in his eyes made Chen Shui understand that Chen Hao wasn't as simple as he made himself out to be. However, although Chen Shui believed that Chen Hao's insane talent would allow him to reach the top, it would be extremely difficult for him to surpass Chu Qingtian. She wasn't even sure if he could surpass her. After all, although this was a test of potential, the higher one's cultivation was, the more experience one had. Relatively speaking, one's comprehension would also increase. Naturally, one would be able to pass the test faster. However, Qin Hao's gaze made Qin Shui feel a sense of anticipation. It seemed that every time she thought she had seen him clearly, he would exceed her expectations. Would it be the same this time? Ha 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 ha! After 6 minutes, Chu Qingtian's arrogant laughter could be heard from the top of the testing tower. Some of the more powerful disciples had reached the top before they could even complete the test. They had surpassed Gu Xing, who was ranked first, and reached the top with absolute superiority. In terms of time, Chu Qingtian was undeniably the first. This was indeed the case. When all the disciples had completed their tests, the silver tower tablet shone with a resplendent light. Chu Qingtian's name replaced Gu Xing's and became a high and mighty existence. It was unknown whether it was intentional or not, but when Chu Qingtian slowly flew towards the area where the Yuan Gate disciples were located, the corners of his mouth curled into an arrogant smile. His gaze paused on Qin Shui's face for a moment. When the number of disciples had reached 9,000, the number of people who reached the top increased to 15 as the test drew to a close. Chu Qingtian was ranked first, Gu Xing was ranked second, Wu Ruochen was ranked third, and Qin Shui was ranked fourth. No one else could shake their positions. At this moment, under Qin Shui's expectant gaze, it was finally Qin Hao's turn. She wasn't excited at all when she was taking her own test. Instead, it was Qin Hao's test that made her heart beat faster. Could Qin Hao create another miracle? TSK, this kid is finally going up. Brothers, take a guess. Which level will he reach? When Qin Hao flew towards the testing tower, the cultivators standing near Qin Hao and Qin Shui began to discuss without restraint. Originally, although Qin Hao had killed Fan Fong when he was in the advanced nascent soul stage, it was nothing to these super geniuses. At most, they would take a few more glances. However, Qin Shui's intimacy with Qin Hao made them extremely jealous. At this moment, how could they not belittle her? It didn't matter whether they got it or not. At least, they couldn't let a fresh flower be stuck in cow dung. Level 5 at most. This kind of genius is just a low-ranking sect's genius. If he were in our sect, he wouldn't even be worth a fart. He's only a few streets away from me. Are you kidding? I've only reached level 5. How can he compare to me? I think he'll be eliminated at level 4. He's just a super genius from a third-rank sect. How dare he come here to participate? Unfortunately, this isn't something that can be accomplished with courage alone. Ha! It's really possible. Look, many people have already reached level 2, but this guy is still on level 1. According to the odds, I'm afraid he'll be the first to be eliminated. Qin Shui frowned slightly. On one hand, the crowd was deliberately mocking Qin Hao. On the other hand, what really made Qin Shui frown was that Qin Hao had been on level 1 for too long. Just like what those people had said, with this kind of performance, he would probably be the first to be eliminated. What was going on? I'll update 1 chapter today. I owe 15 chapters. I apologize again. After the 17th, I'll start to repay the debt. I really can't do anything these few days. During the 10 days in Chengdu, Wu Shan couldn't go out to write. My daughter only pestered me. She didn't even want her mother anymore. Wu Shan was miserable. I returned to Kunming yesterday. Tomorrow, I'll go to Nanjing to attend the publishing house's annual meeting. I'll probably return to Kunming on the 17th. These few days, without his daughter pestering him, Wu Shan tried to find time to write and maintain 1 chapter a day. When I return on the 17th, I'll settle the accounts and start to repay the debt. I hope everyone can bear with it for a while. I'm very sorry, I'll leave in shame. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 274. Duan Yufei and Xia Lanlan were equally puzzled. Although they did not know Qin Hao as well as Qin Shui did, they still knew a little about him. He was only 18 years old and could kill Fan Feng, who was half a step away from the nascent soul stage when he was only in the advanced golden elixir stage. How could his potential be low? Although he might not be able to reach the top, it was normal for him to reach the 9th or 10th level. However, many disciples had already reached the 2nd level while Qin Hao was still on the 1st level. Judging by the time, it was very likely that he would be eliminated on the 4th or 5th level. Hiss. The moment Qin Hao stepped into the testing tower, a 3,000-meter-long narrow passage appeared in front of him. At the same time, a mysterious and terrifying aura poured directly into Qin Hao's glabella. Qin Hao could clearly feel that this aura had locked onto his body. In an instant, a puppet with a metallic luster appeared in the middle of the passage. It did not have any aura of life, but it was emitting a terrifying aura. 3,000 meters. Under this pressure, even without the puppet blocking the way, it would take 10 seconds to fly across. Within 55 seconds, I have to pass through the puppet. Since this is a comprehensive test of one's state of mind, willpower, comprehension, combat talent, and physical talent, there must be a connection between the 10 levels. Qin Hao, who had gone through the 7th level of the 7 Stars Palace, was instantly sure after sensing the aura on the 1st level of the testing tower. The puppets that were added between each level of the testing tower must be a combination of formations and combat skills. Moreover, from what Qin Shui had told him, although the time taken to pass the test was one of the main factors in assessing one's potential, it was not the only factor. Moreover, the people who had just taken the test had also confirmed this point. Among the 15 people who had reached the top, there were those who had taken longer to reach the top. Although there was not much difference in the time taken, at least it showed that time was not the only factor. Not daring to waste any time, Qin Hao rushed towards the puppet in the middle of the tunnel like a bolt of lightning. When he was still 300 meters away, Qin Hao unsheathed his sword and slashed out, using only 60% of his strength. He was very clear that this puppet's strength and essence force were on par with his. The only difference was in absolute arts and adaptability. With Qin Hao's talent, he could definitely defeat him in a few moves, but Qin Hao was not in a hurry to do so. Sharpening a knife won't delay the work of cutting firewood. On the 1st floor, there was only one puppet, which was undoubtedly the easiest way for Qin Hao to understand the characteristics of the puppet's battle formation. Therefore, he had to force the puppets to use all of their moves because these moves would be a part of the puppet's combined moves in the later levels. 50 seconds later, the puppet began to repeat the first move of its mysterious but obviously incomplete moves. When it reached the first move, Qin Hao suddenly pushed the first move of the 7 Stars sword art to the limit and easily pierced through the puppet's head. He rushed to the 2nd floor as fast as he could, and in about 59 seconds, he barely passed the 2nd floor. 2nd floor, 3rd floor, 4th floor, 2 people, 4 people, 8 people, Qin Hao persevered until the last second to pass and killed all of them. Among the 100 testers, more than 10 were eliminated on the 4th floor. Apart from those people, Qin Hao was the last to enter the 5th floor. No way, he can enter the 5th floor like this. It's similar to what I expected. The 5th floor is his limit. He'll definitely be eliminated on this floor. He's only 1 second away every time. He won't be so lucky every time. Qin Shui, Duan Yufei, and Xia Lanlan were worried for Qin Hao every time he entered the next floor at the last second. However, after 4 consecutive times, the 3 of them were no longer nervous, but expectant. The 3 of them more or less understood Qin Hao. They were originally very surprised by Qin Hao's performance, but now they understood that Qin Hao was definitely doing it on purpose. Otherwise, it would be impossible for there to be a 1 second difference every time. The 3 of them thought that Qin Hao was hiding his strength, but they didn't know the real reason why Qin Hao slowed down. Another 59 seconds later, the 5th floor, 16 puppets were all killed again. Qin Hao stepped into the 6th floor. 32 people. The moment he stepped in, Chen Hao's eyes shone brightly. He felt the pressure doubled again. His state of mind was clear, and there was no fear at all. This set of formation combination combat skills definitely surpasses the 7-star sword formation by more than a few times. The number of people on each floor is doubled. It's impossible to kill all of them. The only way is to use the fastest speed to find the weakness of their cooperation. This must be the test of comprehension. Being able to find the weakness quickly and think of the best way to deal with it is the test of combat strength. Mind, willpower, and physical talent are all tests at all times. Chen Hao's brain was calculating rapidly. The pressure on each floor increased exponentially. Moreover, the longer he stayed, the greater the impact of the invisible pressure on his mind. It was definitely the greatest test of one's state of mind and willpower. The strength of the attacks on each battle was a test of one's physical talent. If one's combat strength was outstanding, they could definitely pass through faster. However, by doing so, the pressure on one's state of mind and willpower would be smaller, and it wouldn't be a real test. I'll kill as many as I can. I'll persist for as long as I can. This test is definitely not a test of time to measure one's results. Being fast is just a result of having a strong combat strength. It can't be. How is this possible? The 10th floor. This Chen Hao actually reached the 9th floor. He passed every floor at the last second. This. Could it be that he did it on purpose? Amazing. I really didn't expect this Chen Hao to be able to wait until the 10th floor. If he intentionally passed the first 9 floors at the last second, he definitely wouldn't have a problem reaching the top. When Chen Hao struggled and, dangerously, reached the 10th floor at the last second, everyone was shocked. This was because Chen Hao was the only one who was still taking the test. The others, including the super geniuses who had reached the 10th floor, had already finished their tests. At this moment, those fellows near Chen Shui that ridiculed and looked down upon Chen Hao had shut their mouths since a long time ago. There was utterly no need for anyone to counterattack the words from before, and it was like they were slapping their own mouths, so how could they have the face to say it? They were only shocked. Especially when they thought that Chen Hao might have purposely entered the next floor at the last second, they were so shocked and ashamed that they wanted to hide themselves. Time passed second by second. Chu Qingtian, Gu Xing, and the rest were all paying attention to the testing tower that Chen Hao was in. They didn't know how Chen Hao did it every time at the last second. They also didn't know why Chen Hao did it. However, everyone, including Chu Qingtian, felt threatened. This was because, as super geniuses, they naturally knew that although the time taken to pass the testing tower could roughly determine the results of the test, it wasn't really determined by time. When they were in the tower, they had all raised their fighting power to the maximum and used their fastest speed to pass the test. This was because no one could withstand the increasingly terrifying pressure for too long. It had a huge impact on their bodies. The longer they stayed in the tower, the more their mental state would be affected. Naturally, the power they could unleash would be reduced. Who dared to stay in the tower for too long? Yufei, do you think he can reach the top? Xia Lanlan's face was filled with anticipation and excitement as she asked softly. He should be able to. Once he reaches the top, his ranking should be very, very high. I really didn't expect Chen Hao's potential to be so great. Even if he can't reach the top, his results will still be very high. The only thing he lacks is his fighting talent. No, to be exact, he lacks a high-level secret art. A rank 3 sect is really burying his potential. When Chen Hao stepped into the 10th level, Xia Lanlan and Duan Yufei both spoke softly. The standard to measure one's fighting talent, other than one's ability to adapt, was more important to look at one's own secret art. Being able to cultivate a powerful secret art would definitely increase one's fighting power exponentially. The higher one's fighting power was, the stronger his fighting talent. This was undeniable. However, Chen Hao was only a rank 3 sect. How many powerful secret arts could he have? In Duan Yufei's opinion, Chen Hao's 7-star finger sword was probably his strongest secret art. In this aspect, he couldn't be compared to Chu Qingtian and the rest. He's not simple. At least in terms of temperament and willpower, I can't compare to him. When Chen Hao stepped into the 10th level for 50 seconds, he stared at the lone star in the testing tower. His eyes shone brightly as he thought to himself. Pfft! Chen Hao spat out another mouthful of blood. Last 10 seconds. If I can't find the weakness, I can only force my way through. Chen Hao's figure was as fast as lightning as he shuttled through the joint attacks of the 512 puppets. He felt the pressure that was as heavy as mountains and seas. Every attack caused his body and mind to suffer great pain. Even though his temperament was as firm as a rock, he was still greatly affected. After 50 seconds, even with his comprehension, he couldn't find the puppet's weakness. This joint formation was definitely several times stronger than the 7-star finger sword formation. It was almost perfect. Fortunately, it wasn't the combined attacks of the 512 puppets. Otherwise, no matter how tough his body was, he would have been blasted into pieces. Nobody is perfect. The moon is full and there is no perfect existence in this world. It's the same for formations. There must be a weakness in this formation. Where is it? The immense pressure caused Chen Hao's brain to work at a terrifying speed. His soul consciousness, eyes, intuition were all activated to the extreme. However, he didn't find anything. Every part was perfect and flawless. 10 seconds. In reality, Chen Hao only had 5 seconds. In the remaining 5 seconds, he had to sprint to the finish line with all his strength. Otherwise, even if he broke through the blockade of the puppets, he wouldn't be able to reach the top. Because he would exceed the time limit. It's repeated. Connect. Just when there were only 7 seconds left and Chen Hao was prepared to use his strongest trump card, the platinum sky-piercing slash, to force his way through, his eyes lit up. He discovered the weakness of the 512 puppets. That was connecting. After the combination attack had circulated for an entire cycle, the moment it began to repeat, there was an insignificant pause. However, Chen Hao was able to catch this pause. Kill. The platinum sky-piercing slash that was already prepared was suddenly released. Chapter 275. The sharp sword light turned into a stream of light, like the Milky Way descending from the 9 heavens, and slashed at the weak point. Boom! With a single strike, the countless puppets were unable to react at all. In an instant, over 100 heads flew into the air. Chen Hao used the last of his strength to pass through the dense crowd of puppets and rushed to the finish line. Even though these puppets were no longer perfect after breaking the combined attack, and they were no longer a threat to Chen Hao was unable to continue killing them. This was because with Chen Hao's current strength, he could only use the platinum heaven-splitting slash 3 times at his peak condition. However, he did not have much energy left after all this time. He only had less than half of his energy left when he used this attack. Moreover, he did not have any time to waste. Otherwise, he would exceed the time limit. At the last second, the heavily injured and weak Chen Hao stepped into the exit that was shining with a bright white light. The moment his body was wrapped up, Chen Hao clearly felt that not only was his energy replenished, it had also surpassed his peak condition before he stepped into the tower. He reached the top. When Chen Hao appeared at the top of the tower in 59 seconds, the shock in everyone's hearts was indescribable. However, what shocked them even more was that Chen Hao's name appeared at the top of the silver tower. First place. He had surpassed the number 1 genius of the Yuan Gate, Chu Qingtian, and appeared in first place. Buzzing sounds of discussion filled with disbelief instantly resounded among the close to 10,000 cultivators. Everyone's gaze was fixed on the figure that floated in front of Qin Shui. At this moment, even though many people didn't want to admit it, their feelings had completely changed. The handsome Chen Hao and Chen Shui no longer felt like a fresh flower stuck in cow dung when they were together. There was only a perfect pair, a match made in heaven. He passed the test in 9 minutes and 50 seconds, and is actually in first place. Oh my god. Is he really a genius from a third-grade sect? This is unbelievable. His ranking actually surpassed Chu Qingtian, who is only at the advanced golden core stage. I wonder what rank Chen Hao will get when the results of the Western Mainland and the Southern Sea Islands are out. He should be able to enter the top 10, right? Or maybe even better. No matter what, our Eastern continent's results this time will definitely be the best we've ever had. I'm really looking forward to it. No wonder that Chen Shui favors him so much. Both of them are first-rate super geniuses. They're practically a match made in heaven. He actually surpassed me. This was definitely not true potential. It was me who pursued speed too much. If I could slow down, how could he possibly surpass me? A tiny little advanced stage golden core realm cultivator wants to seize my karmic luck. He's simply courting death. What match made in heaven? Chen Shui is definitely going to be my concubine. Since that's the case, I'll just kill her. I want to see how a dead person is going to snatch my fortune. Chu Qingtian's gaze contained a trace of undetectable viciousness. He stared at Chen Hao, whom he had not paid any attention to, and thought to himself. Then, he gave another order to the disciples of the sect. At the very least, he couldn't kill Chen Hao in this place. This Chen Hao is actually so strong. Yu Yu seems to be paying attention to him too. Since the Ling Tian sect has long valued him, his talent and age. If. Wu Ruochen's eyes flickered as he pondered in his heart. A moment later, he raised his eyebrows and said to himself, no. If this brat is allowed to grow, he might become a threat to me. He's no less a threat than Chu Qingtian. Similarly, there were also some people who could not bear to see such a genius in a low-grade sect and wanted to kill Chen Hao out of jealousy. Of course, most of them were disciples who had fantasies about Chen Shui, the sectless cultivator. Although nobody showed it at this moment, the subtle hostility and killing intent made Chen Hao frown slightly. In the Ling Tian sect, apart from Duan Yufei and Xia Lanlan, the other super geniuses were shocked. At the same time, they deeply admired Xia Nantian and sect leader Xia Lingfeng for standing up for Chen Hao. You have to be careful. Chen Shui, who was close to Chen Hao, used her sharp soul perception to naturally sense the hostility and killing intent surging from the surroundings. While she was shocked by Chen Hao's talent, she reminded him through voice transmission. Don't worry. Chen Hao said softly and did not say much. He had already expected this when he decided to fight for it without holding back. However, he did not expect it to be so serious. It was impossible to say that he did not feel pressured. He had no chance of winning against powerhouses above the mastery nascent soul stage. But if it was to save his life, he could still do it. In less than an hour, all the cultivators from the Eastern Mainland had finally completed the test. The disciples who were ranked within the top 1,000 were qualified to enter the Sky City to train. Disciples who are ranked within the top 1,000 can come and get your communication talisman. The Sky City should be opening soon. Hurry up. Chu Qingtian said proudly. Upon hearing Chu Qingtian's words, many disciples who were qualified rushed towards him. However, nearly half of the disciples did not move. This was especially so for the grade 9 sects and some powerful grade 8 sections. They did not have any intention of getting their talismans. The so-called leadership and unity was only a superficial formality. To the genius disciples, no one was willing to be under the leadership of others. Chen Hao and Chen Shui were even more unlikely to get their talismans. After an hour, the silver pagoda tablet shone brightly again. At this moment, everyone's attention was focused on the pagoda tablet. Everyone knew that the final ranking of the Eastern Mainland, Western Mainland, and Southern Sea Islands who were qualified to enter the Sky City was about to be released. Where would Chen Hao, Chu Qingtian, and the rest be ranked? Without a doubt, this was the question that everyone was most concerned about. For the past few batches, the Eastern Mainland's overall strength was the weakest. The disciple with the highest ranking did not even enter the top 10. The super geniuses of the Southern Sea Islands were always at the top. At the very least, they took up 6 spots in the top 10. Most of them had 7 or 8 spots. The rest were taken up by the Western Mainland. However, this time, Chen Hao and Chu Qingtian, especially Chen Hao's shocking performance, made everyone look forward to it. After all, there might be people who were hostile towards Chen Hao. However, to outsiders, this concerned the reputation of the entire Eastern Mainland. Most people still hoped that Chen Hao and Chu Qingtian could enter the top 10. 6th. 10th. When the final ranking on the Silver Pagoda tablet was fixed, the crowd was in an uproar. Chen Hao's name not only entered the top 10, but also the top 6. Chu Qingtian also entered the top 10. The Eastern Mainland had achieved the best result in the past 1,000 years. I'm only 6th, Chen Hao, who was also looking forward to it, was not excited at all when he saw his own ranking. On the contrary, his black eyes shone with a tinge of seriousness. You're still not satisfied? Seeing Chen Hao's expression, Chen Shui said, this is already the best result in the past 1,000 years in the Eastern Mainland. The cultivation conditions of the Southern Sea Islands are much better than ours. Moreover, many of their super geniuses contain the power of ancient bloodlines. Their physical talents are comparable to demonic beasts when they are born. They are much stronger than us. The Western Mainland is also stronger than us. But you are only at the late stage of the Golden Core realm. Although this test is to test one's potential, the higher your cultivation, the more experience you have, and the more powerful you are. Other than you, the top 10 are all experts who are half a step into the nascent soul realm. You should be satisfied. Be careful. You too. While Chen Shui was speaking, the Silver Pagoda tablet had already emitted rays of resplendent light that enveloped all the qualified disciples. In the void, a gigantic light door with a diameter of 10,000 feet appeared. Whoosh 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 whoosh, all of a sudden, 1,000 disciples swarmed towards the light door like a swarm of locusts. Chen Hao felt that the space around him was twisted. His vision, hearing, and senses were temporarily deafened. Then, he appeared in a boundless area of floating clouds, as if he was in the middle of a deep forest. The heaven and earth spirit chi was so dense that it shocked Chen Hao. There were many huge trees, and even the shortest one was hundreds of feet tall and dozens of feet wide. Other than that, there was also an endless amount of demonic beasts. Such dense space spirit chi. Glancing around, Chen Hao's gaze locked onto a sword-shaped plant that was stuck in the ground like a great sword. It was silver in color, shining with a faint metallic luster. If it were not for the fact that it was swaying in the wind, people might have mistaken it for a great sword. But what surprised Chen Hao the most was that this sword-shaped plant contained an extremely dense space spirit chi. Could it be the empty space spirit grass? Chen Hao thought about the introduction of spiritual items in the sex information and said in surprise. Not bad. It is indeed the sky spirit plant. Master, this sky city is indeed magical. No wonder you cultivators are fighting so hard to get in here. This sky spirit plant contains a lot of space spirit chi, which is very useful for learning the truth of the space element. Any one of them could be sold at the price of a low-rank spiritual item. There are hundreds of them here. With Chen Hao's permission, Ito Ta spread out his senses and said excitedly in Chen Hao's mind. I have already touched a little bit of the truth of the space element. This is great. With these sky spirit plants, I might be able to learn it in one go. Without any hesitation, Chen Hao's body flashed and rushed towards the sky spirit plants. He activated his space-absorbing palm, and all of a sudden, the sky spirit plants were uprooted. Chen Hao did not even look at them as he put them into his storage space. Boom! Awoo! Just as Chen Hao put away the last sky spirit plant, accompanied by a loud beast roar, the ground within a radius of 1,000 feet suddenly exploded. A khaki-colored demonic beast, which looked like a pangolin that had expanded countless times, rushed to the sky, opened its big mouth full of fangs, and tried to swallow Chen Hao. Chen Hao was not surprised at all. Spiritual items all had demonic beasts accompanying them. How could there not be hundreds of sky spirit plants? Unhurriedly, he threw out a punch. Boom! The true essence condensed by Chen Hao, which was 90% of his strength, immediately repelled the demonic beast. However, to Chen Hao's surprise, although the huge fist shadow made by the true essence made contact with the demonic beast's body, it was swallowed and dissolved by the small space vortex that gushed out of the demonic beast's body. The demonic beast was not hurt at all. Chapter 276. Qi. Qi. Since his first punch had failed, Chen Hao formed a sword with his finger and performed the 7-star sword finger. This attack was still 90% of his strength, but it was several times sharper than a casual punch. In Chen Hao's mind, even if he couldn't kill the beast, he could at least severely injure it. But to his surprise, just as the 3 sword fingers were about to make contact with the demonic beast's head, an even more powerful spatial vortex appeared on the demonic beast's body and neutralized Chen Hao's attack. This ancient demonic beast is powerful. It is only at the peak of the late-stage golden core stage. I have already cultivated the 7-star finger sword to the initial stage and its attack power has definitely increased by more than 5 times. I can even kill an early-stage nascent soul stage demonic beast with ease, but it is useless against this ancient demonic beast. The spatial vortex formed by the ancient demonic beast's body seemed to be able to devour all energy and made Chen Hao's attack unable to display even 30% of its power. Roar! After being forced back twice by a puny human, the ancient demonic beast roared and opened its bloody mouth in anger. It spat out a violent vortex of energy. What powerful spatial energy! Chen Hao was shocked. The ancient demonic beast's attack didn't charge toward Chen Hao. Instead, it formed a massive vortex in front of its mouth. It was like a black hole and contained a terrifying devouring power. In almost an instant, Chen Hao felt as if his essence was being devoured and his body was being drawn toward the demonic beast uncontrollably. The energy of heaven and earth within a radius of 10,000 feet surged toward the black hole. What powerful spatial fluctuations! 100 kilometers away, a voice that had just stepped into Sky City exclaimed in surprise after sensing the energy fluctuations. This must be one of the treasured lands in this area. Who could have been teleported to a better location than me? Could it be Jian Wufei? The figure frowned and a hint of excitement flashed in his eyes. Whoosh! His body flashed and he quickly flew toward the source of the energy fluctuations. When a cultivator was teleported to Sky City, it was usually related to their cultivation base and ranking. Those who weren't far away were usually people with similar strength and potential. In another direction, a few dozen kilometers away from Chen Hao, a beautiful woman stared at the sky where Chen Hao was. A hint of surprise appeared on her face as she muttered, "Such a strong spatial fluctuation, someone must have been teleported directly to the treasure land. No one in the Western continent can compare to me. He must be a super genius from the South Sea Islands. I'd like to see for myself." These 2 people were Liao Guangye and Jian Wufei, the 2 super geniuses of the Western continent who were only half a step away from the nascent soul stage. How is this possible? At the same time, in a place less than 20 miles away from where Chen Hao was, a young disciple with an extremely powerful aura stared into the void and frowned. Someone actually teleported to a better location than me? Regardless of potential or combat strength, there's absolutely no one in the Golden Core realm that can compare to me, Yu Qingfeng. How is this possible? Could it be that an absolute genius had appeared in the Western continent? No, he must be a disciple who has just stepped into the early nascent soul stage and has great potential. Otherwise, there is no way he can be better than me. Humph, you're just an early nascent soul realm cultivator. As long as you're not from the southern sea islands, you'll have to die. Hiss. As soon as this voice finished speaking, it was as if space itself had been torn apart and the person suddenly disappeared. This young disciple was a half-step nascent soul stage cultivator from the South Sea Islands who was ranked in the top 8 of the Tower of Testing. He was ranked slightly lower than Qinhao, Yu Qingfeng. In the South Sea Islands, he was even more famous than the super geniuses of the core disciples. He had killed countless early nascent soul stage cultivators and even killed some mid-nascent soul stage cultivators. His body was surrounded by a murderous aura that was almost tangible. Even opponents of similar strength would find it difficult to use their full strength under his murderous aura and could only be killed. Other than these 3 people, there were 6 others. 4 of them were early nascent soul stage cultivators from the South Sea Islands, 1 was early nascent soul stage cultivator from the Western continent, and the last one was wearing a blue dress. It was Qin Shui, who had just stepped into the nascent soul stage. Including Qinhao, a total of 10 people were teleported to nearby areas. A mere late golden core stage cultivator was teleported to this area. How is this possible? And he's even a disciple from the eastern continent? In a short while, Yu Qingfeng arrived near Qinhao. He concealed his presence and stood in the air as he stared at Qinhao, who was fighting a primordial demonic beast. He thought in shock. To be able to teleport here, he must be a golden core stage cultivator or early nascent soul stage cultivator with similar results as me. But this kid is only at the late golden core stage, how could he be here? Could it be that his potential ranking is higher than mine? In Yu Qingfeng's opinion, the other party should be at least an early nascent soul stage super genius. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to be teleported to a better location than him. But now, the young man in front of him was only at the late golden core stage, and his appearance was definitely 1 or 2 years younger than him. Although this ancient beast is only at the peak of the late golden core stage, the ancient aura and space attribute essence that it contains are probably at the peak of the initial stage. The precious spirit herbs nearby must have been obtained by this kid. Once this beast is killed, the cultivation cave will open. I want to see how this kid kills it. Yu Qingfeng slowly released his aura. His gaze was like a mantis stalking a cicada. He stood in the void and looked at Qinhao mockingly. He knew very well that with such a big commotion, it would not be long before some super geniuses with similar strength arrived. Therefore, he was not in a hurry to make a move. As long as they were not from the southern sea islands, they would all die. When the time came, he would be the one to enter the small grotto heaven and obtain the spirit herbs. He had absolute confidence in his strength. At this moment, a blue figure appeared strangely on the other side. When Yu Qingfeng saw this figure, his eyes suddenly lit up. The second person to arrive was Qin Shui. Qin Shui was originally further away than the others, but she had the advantage of speed. Moreover, when she sensed the spatial fluctuations, she vaguely felt that it was definitely Qinhao who had increased his speed to the limit. After all, although Yu Qingfeng and the others knew that Qinhao was ranked 6th on the pagoda tablet, they did not know that Qinhao was at the golden core stage. Therefore, Qin Shui was almost certain that Qinhao was the only one who could teleport to such a good location. Moreover, this was just the beginning. As time passed, if she and Qinhao wanted to obtain greater gains, they would have to continue to go deeper. By then, they would encounter mid-stage or even late-stage nascent soul realm experts, which was extremely dangerous. Therefore, if she could be with Qinhao, they could rely on each other. When Yu Qingfeng looked at Qin Shui also noticed Yu Qingfeng's malicious gaze, but she ignored it and flew directly to Qinhao, who was immersed in the battle, waiting for him. She was quite speechless about Qinhao. When she came in, she had already made it very clear to Qinhao that in the Sky Castle, with their strength, they could only keep a low profile if they wanted to protect themselves. However, Qinhao knew that such an intense battle would attract the nearby super geniuses of the same level, but he still immersed himself in the battle without any scruples. Others could not tell, but Qin Shui knew that Qin Hao was not fighting with all his strength. Instead, he was deliberately entangled with the ancient demonic beast, obviously trying to understand the mysteries of the space attribute from the ancient demonic beast. Brother Yu. Whoosh whoosh. A few others arrived one after another. Among them, there were 4 early-stage nascent soul realm disciples. When they saw Yu Qingfeng, they immediately flew to his side. Although their cultivation levels were higher than Yu Qingfeng's, their eyes were full of respect, but their hearts were filled with shock and confusion. Originally, they all thought that the one who caused the commotion was Yu Qingfeng, so they came to get a share of the loot. However, they did not expect that the one who was fighting with the ancient demonic beast was a young late-stage Golden Core Realm disciple. Wu Fei, I'm very happy to meet you. He he. When the Western Mainland disciple, Liao Guangye, saw the familiar figure, he immediately flew over and said with a smile. Jian Wufei nodded and did not say anything. Her gaze slowly swept past Yu Qingfeng and the others, and finally landed on Qin Hao. The other half-step nascent soul realm disciple from the Western Mainland also flew to the two of them. He, Brother Yu, it is said that each region corresponds to a small cultivation grotto heaven. The number of people sent to this region is usually 10. The closer the location is to the small cultivation grotto heaven, the stronger the overall strength. However, there are also accidents and luck. This kid is only at the late-stage Golden Core realm, so his potential is not bad. However, luck is even better. Otherwise, he would not have found it before Brother Yu. Of course. Brother Yu is the number 1 inner disciple in the Southern Sea Islands. Who can compare to him? Brother Yu, let's kill these guys. There are 5 of us, 3 from the Western Mainland, and 2 from the Eastern Mainland. It is not a ratio at all. We just need to get a share of the loot. In the Southern Sea Islands, a disciple looked at Liao Guangye and Qin Hao and said in a relaxed tone. From the looks of it, it was as if killing 5 people was an extremely easy task. You guys go and take down the 3 from the Western Mainland. Kill the man and leave the girl. The 2 from the Eastern Mainland are not in a hurry. I will take care of them later. Okay. Humph, arrogant. Tell me your name. I want to see what is so great about the Southern Sea Islands. Liao Guangye heard the provocation and immediately said in a furious tone. Especially when Yu Qingfeng's tone made it clear that he was interested in Jian Wufei. Qin Shui, who was standing near Qin Hao in a serious battle array, had her brows knit together tightly as a strong battle intent arose from her body. Her aura instantly became icy cold to the extreme as she stared at the 2 groups that seemed to be about to open fire. Ha! Your courage is commendable. How can you compare to the Southern Sea Islands? Listen up, this is the number 1 genius of the Southern Sea Islands, Yu Qingfeng. With his half-step nascent soul cultivation, he is ranked 8th in the test. As for the 4 of us, we are not people you can compare to. Cut the crap and accept your death obediently. Brothers, attack. Hiss hiss hiss. The 4 of them charged towards Liao Guangye, Jian Wufei, and the other disciple from the Western Mainland. You are courting death. Jian Wufei let out a cold shout and suddenly attacked. When she heard Yu Qingfeng's name, she was indeed very surprised. However, whether it was her or Liao Guangye, they were both extremely arrogant geniuses. It was impossible for them to give up without a fight. Guaranteed first update. As of yesterday, I owe everyone 23 chapters. I will continue to update today. I will try my best to repay my debt. I will guarantee at least 2 chapters a day. The extra chapters will be used to repay my debt. The second update will be tonight. I am very sorry. I have made everyone wait for so long. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.